Good evening, my dear students. Welcome to the session on the CA Final Indirect Taxes GST laws. In today's session, we are going to cover the topic of exemptions from GST. In the previous three sessions, I hope all of you have attended. We covered the introduction, constitutional amendments, and we covered the charge of GST chapter and the concept of supply. We saw the composition scheme, we saw the reverse charge mechanism, services subject to reverse charge mechanism. So in today's session, we are going to cover the exemptions from GST. This is an important topic from your examination point of view, because there are multiple amendments being made where so many exemptions were withdrawn and many new exemptions were introduced. And also certain exemptions, there was modifications done in the provisions which were there. So therefore, I would strictly recommend you to have your supplementary study paper along with you now, either in the soft copy or the hard copy. Wherever the amendment has happened, we will also look at the supplementary study paper for further clarifications. So therefore, what is exactly exemption? Can anyone tell me, what do you mean by the term exempt or exemption? Other than if you get 60 marks, you get exemption, that is one. But from GST point of view, what do you mean by the term exemption? Good evening, Viraj. Good evening, Sriram. Good evening, Pooja. Good evening, Tirupati. Hi, Namita. How are you? Nice to see you once again. Yeah, definitely you can ask the query. Please shoot to the email. You have got the email ID, right? There is no problem. There was some problem with that email ID in the last 1 month, so it was, the box was full. So you can send your query now. I will positively respond by tomorrow. Yeah, good evening everyone. Nice to see you on a Sunday evening. Yeah, so coming back, if you see here, so what is the term exempt? I was asking you that. Can anyone tell me what do you mean by the term exempt? The particular product or service is exempt from the payment of GST. Okay, fine. So that means it is not subject to the payment, excluded from the payment of GST. Okay. So therefore, in every law for that matter, you cannot charge each and every income, or you cannot charge each and every supply. There are certain supplies which are on which GST cannot be imposed, like essential goods, some services like education services, healthcare services. You cannot impose taxation on that, because the ultimate cost of the end product gets added and it burdens the final customer. So therefore, what has to be done is we have to exempt certain goods or services which are essential and are important from the practical perspective. So therefore, we have to first, when you have to determine how much tax has to be calculated, you have to first verify whether the supply of goods or services are exempt from tax. So 2 subsection 47 of the CGST Act defines exempt supply, which means supply of any goods or services or both which attracts a nil rate of tax, or which may be wholly exempt from tax and also includes non-taxable supply. So therefore, whichever is subject to nil rate of tax, that is, it is not taxable. Okay, which may be wholly exempt from tax, no question of any tax on that, and includes non-taxable supply. Also, the supply which cannot be taxed, like your alcoholic liquor for human consumption, petrol, diesel, and those 5 petroleum products on which it's not taxable, that also exempt supply includes non-taxable supply also. Non-taxable supply means what? It means a supply of goods or services which is not a taxable supply. Credit cannot be claimed in respect of tax paid on the inputs used in the exempt supply of goods and services. This is a very, very critical point. If any goods or services are fully exempt from GST, if you are using any taxable goods or services in the course of the business for providing such an exempt supply, then you cannot claim any input tax credit on the expenses what you are incurring. I hope this is clear. That means what? Let us take an example here. Now, one of the exempt service what we are going to discuss is healthcare service, hospitals service. So the hospitals is running the service which is exempt from GST. The hospital pays rent for the premises. On that, GST is applicable because renting of immovable property is chargeable to GST. Apart from that, it pays the doctor some consultants. If the doctors charge the hospital, that GST has to be paid by the hospital. So these GST, whatever the hospital is paying to these particular parties, will not be eligible to input tax credit. Why? Because the hospital is not charging any GST from the customer. Fine. So therefore, credit cannot be claimed. So the power is granted via Section 11 of the CGST Act and Section 6 of the IGST Act. Essential goods or services, that is public consumption products or services, are like electricity is there, roads, toll tax is there. Some sort of those things are essential goods or services have been exempt from GST. So therefore, this we have already seen the definition. Exempt supply: a supply which attracts nil rate of tax or which may be wholly exempt from tax and includes the non-taxable supply. So under GST, a supply which is not leviable to tax. As I told you, non-taxable supplies are also included under exempt supply. So before that, let us go through some definitions. Before that, let me see if there are any queries. Yeah. Anandi, good evening, sir. I'm new to this batch. Can you let me know which material to refer, how to get these notes? This is perfectly your study material. Whatever slides I'm going through in these classes, I will upload it in the portal. Please download it from there. And also refer the study material, refer the supplementary study paper, which you can find in the Board of Studies Knowledge Portal, BOS Knowledge Portal, you will find that also. So take that as well as your study material. Refer those two only for the purpose of these classes. Then once you finish the entire duration of the class, you can also refer to your other, there are also other publications for revision test papers and other questions which are released. You can just go through that. And more importantly, today you may get a bit confused if you go through only this class. Still try to listen, because exemptions topic is not very relevant to what 3 classes we have discussed earlier. Try to listen to the class. Most important is cover those 3 initial classes, which recorded ones will always be there. In case you have any queries in that also, you can feel free to ask me. Coming to the definition, agricultural produce. Agricultural services is exempt in income tax also, it is exempt in GST also. So therefore, what is agricultural produce? It means produce out of cultivation of plants and rearing of life forms of animals, except the rearing of horses. That is not covered here. Rearing of horses is not agricultural activity. So produce out of cultivation for food, fiber, fuel, raw material, or other similar products on which either no further processing is done, or such processing is done as is usually done by the cultivator or producer, which does not alter essential characteristics but makes it marketable for the primary market. So that means what? Agricultural produce, you cultivate the plants for food, fiber, raw material, etc. For processing, it is not done. And such processing is done as is usually done by the cultivator or producer, does not alter the essential characteristics. So essential characteristics does not get altered. That is a very, very important thing which you have to remember. And you can make it marketable for the final product. Fine. I hope this point is clear. Approved vocational education course. This phrase is used in the educational services, what we are going to cover in the exemption. It means a course run by the Industrial Training Institute or Industrial Training Center affiliated to National Council or State Council for Vocational Training. Approved vocational education course enjoys exemptions under GST. So what is an approved vocational education course? There is an industrial center which is there. There's a national council which is there, which is affiliated to that and provides the skills. Similarly, modular employable skill course approved by the National Council of Vocational Training. This skill course also is an approved vocational education course. I hope that is clear. So another very, very important definition for you to understand is the definition of charitable activities under the GST law. Now, charitable activities is also defined in income tax. Don't get confused between the two. It is a very, very critical definition. NGOs, non-government organizations, or not-for-profit organizations who engage in charitable activities are very, very critical to be monitored, and very, very critical whoever especially enjoy the exemption. Though this is a facility given by the Indian country to do the good for the society, lot of these NGOs misuse the laws and therefore do lot of things which are not supposed to be done. like fraud donations, taking the money and returning it through other means, etc. So that is why emphasis of controls in income tax as well as GST is very, very important in this particular situation. So therefore here charitable activities definition is important, because charitable activities are not subject to GST. So therefore, what exactly comes under charitable activities is important. So charitable activities means what? It means activities relating to public health by way of care or counseling. Okay, public health by way of care or counseling of terminally ill persons, or persons with severe physical or mental disability, persons afflicted with HIV or AIDS, persons addicted to dependence forming substance like drugs, etc. So therefore, the first area where public health is covered, charitable activities is covered, is first is public health. In public health, care or counseling is there. Terminally ill patients or disabled person, HIV, AIDS, drugs. So these three, if you do the counseling, you will it comes under charitable activities. And second one is public awareness of preventive health, family planning or prevention of HIV infection, health camps for HIV prevention, health camps for, say, COVID is there, how to eliminate the risk of COVID, health awareness camps are conducted. That is also exempt from, it's a charitable activity. Let us go to exemptions later. Second point, first one is basically public health. Please make a note of it. In charitable activities, first one is public health. Second one is advancement of religion, spirituality, or yoga. So any religious practices, religious activities, spiritual activities, meditations, etc. Yoga also is covered here. Then advancements of educational programs or skill development relating to these four people. So if you are doing any educational programs or you are doing any skill development relating to these four people you have to remember. So educational programs or skill development is not a blanket charitable activity. You have to give it to these four types of persons. What are the four types of persons? Abandoned, orphaned, or homeless persons, physically or mentally abused and traumatized persons, prisoners, or persons above the age of 65 years residing in rural area. This is an important point which you have to remember. Rural area. So you may get asked a question. In the past, it was asked in the examination that same facts were given, but there he mentioned Bangalore. So that means it is an urban area. So therefore, exemption will not come. So if you are doing educational programs or skill development to persons above the 65 years residing in rural area, that we have to cover. But the first three parties, they need not reside in rural area to enjoy the charitable activity tag. They can be in the urban area also. I hope it is clear. Then the fourth wing of charitable activities is preservation of environment, including watershed, forests, and wildlife. So any preservation, environment preservation activity by way of watershed, forest, wildlife, that is also is covered. So what are the types of exemptions in GST? Specific activities or transactions enjoy the exemption. Okay, like transfer of going concern, residential dwelling rent, etc. We will see all of this in our coming slides. Exemption to specified suppliers. Sometimes the supply doesn't matter for enjoying the exemption, but the nature of supplier matters. So if the supplier is the central government, RBI, etc., in this particular situation, the exemptions are there. But however, services by RBI also now is taxable. So specified suppliers there. Sometimes specified recipients also enjoy the exemption. If the recipient of service is central government, state government, etc., they also, here also, that is the exemption is given. Exemption to specified suppliers and specified recipients. Sometimes if one specified supplier supplies the service to a specified recipient, then the exemptions are there. Those type also is there, like ESI, IRDA, etc. Fine. So that was your introduction. Now we come to the section which talks about the exemption. Sir, petrol and diesel are not brought within the ambit of GST law and still earlier taxed under the VAT law. If exempt includes non-taxable also, then does it mean the petrol and diesel are within the exempt supplies category? or within non-GST supplies category. It is non-GST only, but the definition of exempt supply includes the non-taxable supply also. Fine. So we have to call them as non-GST only, but wherever the term exempt supply is used for the purpose of that, we have to include this also. It is an inclusive definition and includes the non-taxable supply. Ready with pen, paper, notebook, please require. Yeah, definitely. I will tell you wherever to please note down. Please make a note of it. Apart from that, you can follow the slide whenever. If you're Namita, thank you very much. You're really thank you very much for your kind words, Namita. It's always a pleasure. I've seen you till now in 3 batches. I think your attempt is in May. So all the best. I hope you're studying well for your examinations. Yeah. So what does the section say? Where the government is satisfied that it is necessary in the public interest so to do, it may on the recommendations of the council by notification exempt generally, either absolutely or subject to such conditions as may be specified, goods or services or both of any specified description from the whole or any part of the tax leviable thereof with effect from such date as may be specified in such notification. So important point is, when it is necessary in public interest, that is when the call to exempt the goods or services is taken. So if it is necessary in public interest on recommendations of the council, so once the government feels it is in the public interest to provide an exemption to a particular good or service, it refers it to the GST council. Once the GST council recommended, the government will issue a notification and exempt either absolutely, either total exemption is given or conditional exemption is given, wherein subject to conditions the goods will be exempt. So from the whole or any part of the tax, so whole tax will be exempt sometimes, or part exemption is given with effect from such date as may be notified in the notification. That is number one. The second one is by a special order under circumstances of exceptional nature. So first one, public interest on recommendations of the council. Second one, public interest on recommendations of the council, but in exceptional circumstances, not normally, where the government feels that this particular product needs to be exempt for some time. Okay, in that particular situation, it is issued in the public interest. Special order will be given, exempt the payment of tax in case of goods or services. Then 11 subsection 3 speaks about where it is government considers it necessary to clarify applicability of notification issued under subsection 1 or order issued under subsection 2. An explanation can be inserted in the notification at any time within 1 year from the notification under subsection 1 or order under subsection 2. That means exemption notification is given under this 11 subsection 1 and 11 subsection 2. Sometimes it is not clear. So the government may insert an explanation. For that a time limit is prescribed. Within 1 year from the issue of notification, the explanation can be given. So for the purpose of the section, exemption is respect of goods or both from whole or part of the tax level is granted. Absolutely, the registered person supplying such good shall not collect the tax in excess of the effective rate. So wherever exemption is given, the registered person should not collect the respective tax from the recipient. Goods are not very important from examination point of view. Exemption services are important from examination point of view. So therefore, when it comes to goods, list of items are given. Common man, everyday items used by the common man are included in the list of exempted items like unbranded atta, maida, besan, unpacked food grains, milk, eggs, curd, lassi, fresh vegetables are among the items exempt from GST. So now we come to the important part, that is the list of services which are exempt from GST, which is given. Please make a note of this. Notification 12/2017. Notification 12/2017 dated 28th June 2017. In that, the first one, please make a note of it, services related to charitable and religious activities. So we are going to cover it section by section. Services related to charitable and religious activities, agriculture related services, healthcare related service, education services, and all the other miscellaneous services which are there. Fine. So first entry, you don't need to remember the number of the entry. It is just given for your understanding. First one, services by entity registered under 12AA or 12AB of the Income Tax Act 1961 by way of charitable activities. So two conditions have to be there. First one, registered under these two sections in income tax, and second one, they have to do charitable activities. Charitable activities means what they have to do, same thing what is given in the definition, which we saw the definition just around 15 minutes back. Please can anyone tell me what do you mean by this term 12AA or 12BB? Can anyone tell me? 12AA or 12BB? So even though it's a Sunday evening, you voluntarily come forward, take our class. Oh, it's my pleasure. No problem at all, because I could not postpone this class to later, because tomorrow you have the topic of time or place of supply, I think. So the continuity will be affected. So I had only Sunday to work around with. So that is why we had to take this class. Anyways, it is good that all of you are attending. I was just a bit worried that most of you will not be attending, but glad to see a good attendance. Yeah, can anyone tell me what is 12AA or 12AB? Not-profit organizations. What does the section mean? How many of you have heard of this section before? Or in IPCC level also it was covered. I know it is non-profit organizations because we are discussing charitable activities. Where have you heard this before? What does this mean? If you have heard this before, do you recollect what it stands for? I don't know, CA final level, how important is this section in income tax. When we were studying at that point of time, the 12A or 12AB was important in IPCC level, but not in the final. Registered for not-for-profit and NGO activities under income tax. What is the main, if you have a 12AB exemption, what is the main advantage? If you have a 12AB registration under income tax, what is the advantage? Why is it that critical that the GST law is telling that it has to be registered under 12AB? Of course, GST and income tax are two different laws. So why is the GST law telling that income tax registration has to be there? What is the main USP or main advantage of having a 12AB registration? Anyone? I'll wait for 1 minute exactly and see if you get any answers for this. What is the advantage of having a 12AA and 12AB registration? Donation exemption under ATG is different. Don't get confused. That is different, altogether different. Income tax exemption is provided to the organizations. Very good. That is your answer. So therefore, the most important point here is, if you have a 12AB registration, let us call it 12AB only. 12AA is no longer there. 12AA was under the old provision. Last year, all the 12AA provisions have migrated to 12AB. So 12AB only is relevant at the moment. Fine. So therefore, income tax exemption, that is the main point of this thing. So if an organization enjoys income tax exemption, that means it is very clear that the organization is transparent, because there is an entire procedure by way of for getting exemption under the income tax law. So if that entire procedure is followed, and because of this he's following the procedure, he has got the income tax exemption, the GST law also places reliance or faith on such organizations and gives this as a condition. So registered under 12AA or 12B, having the charitable activities. That is what is covered in this particular entry. What are charitable activities? You have seen that now only, the definition. So that definition is important. Please remember what are the charitable activities. The next one. Services by way of conducting any religious ceremony. It can be anything, right from the puja of your house, or if you for your marriage pujas are undertaken, any sort of religious ceremony, any person is giving the services by a person by way of conduct of religious ceremony, it is exempt from GST. Then renting of precincts of religious place. Precinct means premises of a religious place meant for general public, owned or managed by entity registered under Charitable Registration 12AB or trust registered 1023C5 or body covered under 1023 BBA. 1023C and 1023 BBA are also separate provisions which talk about the income tax exemption to certain particular institutions. So therefore, if there is a religious place, a charitable entity is there, let us say Hanuman Temple Society. Hanuman Temple Society is there. So they have a huge premises where the devotees can come and daily pray and take the prasad. Now, sometimes what happens, such premises sometimes are also let out for marriages. Sometimes the people are want the marriage to happen in a temple. So therefore, what happens at that point of time, they take the the premises on a rent. So at that point of time, it is exempt. But there is a condition here. Exclusions: renting of rooms 1,000 or more per day. Okay, renting of rooms 1,000 or more per day. Renting of premises, marriage hall 10,000 or more per day. So two things. Sometimes rooms are also rented to all the persons who are attending the marriage. So renting of rooms are also 1,000 or more per day is excluded. Renting of premises, marriage hall 10,000 or more per day. Renting shops charges 10,000 or more per month. So therefore, these particular situations also it is excluded. So therefore, these are excluded from the exemption. So 1,000 or more, 10,000 or more, and renting shops, which is sometimes the temple premises will have the shops also. In that particular situations, you will have to make sure that it is chargeable to tax. Otherwise, it is exempt. Fine. I hope that is clear. Any questions till now? IT exemption, yes, correct, Pooja. Yeah. Next one. Services by specified organization in respect of religious pilgrimage facilitated by Ministry of External Affairs, the Government of India under bilateral arrangement. Okay, this is religious pilgrimage like Hajj is there, Kumaon Vikas is there, Amarnath Yatra is there. So these pilgrimage, if it is facilitated by the ministry directly, in that particular situation, the organization has to be clearly approved by the government to facilitate such pilgrimages. So those services are being provided, they are exempt. Okay. Then entry 80, services by way of training or coaching in recreational activities relating to arts or culture by individual. Entry 80 is very, very important. Please go to your supplementary study paper. Who all have the supplementary study paper. Please open it once. Please open it once and have this parallelly so that we can cover at the same time, so that we don't have to come back again. So here, if you see, if you go, I'll tell you the page number. Entry 80. Just go to entry 80. In the columns entry 80 as mentioned, just scroll down, enter 80, entry 80 is there in page number 31. Page number 31, you will find 80. Earlier, this is what was given. It said arts or culture or sports by charitable activities, both have to be undertaken by charitable entities registered under 12AB of the Income Tax Act 1961. But there is a slight change which has happened. Now it is arts or culture, individual has to provide the service. Recreational activities relating to arts or culture, only if individual provides the service. Individual provides the service. Arts or culture means drama, theatre, dance, etc. But individual has to provide the service, not charitable entities. Please bear in mind. So therefore, individual has to provide recreational activities, then it is exempt. Then sports by charitable entities. But in case it is sports, charitable entities registered under 12AB of the Income Tax Act has to provide. So in these two cases, exemption is given. So this is very important from the examination point of view. Please put a star mark, write down also entry 80 is important from the examination point of you. So since we are discussing the charitable activities, just go through the definition one more time. Turnible care or counseling, public awareness, advancement of religion, all this we have seen. Okay, just go through again. Now let us look at some examples of charitable activities. Management of educational institutions in rural areas by charitable trust. So this what is happening here. A rural area is there. Okay, rural area is there. In this, the educational institutions is being managed. Okay, educational institutions is being managed here. So whether it is exempt, So therefore, if you see here, educational institutions in rural areas, advancement of educational activities in rural areas by charitable trusts, and also educational services are clearly exempt from GST, which we shall see shortly. So therefore, in this particular situation, if the educational institution is being managed by the charitable trust, then it is exempt. In the rural area, it is very much exempt from GST. So rural area, how do you determine which is a rural area? Rural area is basically in the land records you have to see where it's an area not under any municipal committee, corporation, cantonment board, etc. If it is not covered under these organizations, then it automatically is a rural area. Now we go to the further questions here. Hostel accommodation provided by trusts. What is this hostel accommodation? Now, hostel accommodation is no longer there. Okay, hostel accommodation is not there in the charitable activities. It does not come in the, it is not mentioned in the charitable activities. But now there is a small change here. Just ignore this one. This was prior the recent amendment. Just go to our supplementary study paper once. If you go to the supplementary study paper, let us see if the so it doesn't say hostel. So this particular entry will continue to be there. Ignore it now, what I said. So only the hotel exemption are removed. I will explain you when we come to that. As of now, let's consider this hostel accommodation provided by trusts. It is, in this case, it is taxable. But if it is up to ₹1,000 per day, it is exempt. Okay, it is exempt in this particular situation. Then religious yatras or pilgrimage, as I told you, specific organizations, if they organize the religious yatras or pilgrimage, then it is exempt. Yoga, meditation camps are also exempt if it's arranged by the charitable trusts. Yoga along with accommodation also is exempt, because why? The predominant object is yoga. Object should be yoga again. If you are giving some luxury accommodation is a 5-star hotel and daily only 1 hour yoga and spirituality you are doing, then the predominant activity is accommodation. So you have to see what is the predominant accommodation. Hospitals managed by charitable trusts are also exempt, because healthcare as such is exempt. We shall go there now. Then training or coaching in recreational activities, this you please ignore now, because in this particular situation, the supplier has to be an individual. Okay, supplier has to be a individual. If it is arts and culture, okay, this is a recent amendment. Arts and culture, supplier needs to be an individual. Sports, then supplier needs to be a charitable trust registered under 12AB. Okay, I hope it is clear. So therefore, recreational activities covers art cultures, but I hope all of you understood the thin line of difference between arts and culture and sports as given in the NT. Okay, then GST on services provided to charitable trust. So if you are providing to the charitable trust, there is no exemption. So any activities, sometimes there is a confusion. I am a charitable trust, but I'm hiring a I'm hiring one accommodation to for my orphan children and paying rent on that. You cannot say there is no GST on that. Services provided to charitable trust are not exempt. Some more illustrations here. Shiksha Academy, an education institution run by Sarseva Trust, a charitable trust, has organized a skill development program for old age above the 65 years residing in Bangalore. Is it exempt or not? Please let me know. All these four, please try to answer. Let us see if you are able to answer these based on our discussion. Bangalore, not rural area, condition not met. So no exemption in the first case. Correct, Tirupati, you're right. Anyone else? Correct. First one is clear. Second one, KMVN supplies numerous services, namely medical facilities, catering, security, accommodation to pilgrims undertaking Kailash Mansarovar pilgrimage. So this case also, since it is officially specified organization, since services given by specified organization, it is exempt. The next one, Bhavya Jyoti Foundation, a charitable trust registered under 12AB of the Income Tax Act 1961, has organized a meditation camp for old age people. This also, it is advancement of spirituality, which is there in the charitable activity given by the charitable entity registered on 12AB. It is exempt. Next one, it is sports. Sports, again, as I told you, if it is conducted by a charitable entity registered on 12AB, then also it is exempt. So fourth one also is exempt from GST. I hope it is clear. Then Ramanand Joshi, a priest, charges rupees 12,000 for conducting religious ceremony on birthday of Mr. Ghanshyam's son. Comment on whether it is exempt supply. Occasion doesn't matter with regard to the religious ceremony. Occasion can be anything. Religious ceremony conducted means it is exempt from GST. Fine. Then renting of precincts of premises of religious place meant for the general public, activities other than conduct of religious ceremony and precincts will be taxable irrespective of the manner or the name in which the consideration is received. Okay. So it is very clear. Other than religious ceremony and precincts, if you see any activities is there, then it is very much chargeable to tax. Now, sometimes what happens, if a donation is received with the mutual understanding between the donor and the receiver that the religious place will post an advertisement promoting the business, then donation will be subject to GST. Why it is subject to GST? Because a quid pro quo element is present. So since here quid pro quo, that means something in return benefit is there and consideration is there per month per shop, whether it is exempt from GST. Okay, here slightly tricky. It says 10,000 per month, but taxability exemption is not there if it 10,000 or more. Only if it is 1 rupee less than 10,000. Even if it is 9,999, it would have been exempt. But in this case, it is 10,000 or more. So therefore, it is very much chargeable to tax. Then Sarva Shiksha Foundation, education institution, registered under 12AB, 1023C5 of the Income Tax Act, owns and manages a Gurudwara. It rents the community hall located in the precincts of the Gurudwara for rent of 9,000 per day. So this is 10,000 per day. Less than 10,000 per day is exempt from GST. So second one, it is exempt. So I hope it is clear, this charitable activities related section. KMVN is basically a charitable organization. In the question, it will clearly be, we are not, of course, expected to remember what is a specified organization or not. So therefore, in the question, it will be clearly given. Don't worry about that. Now we come to agriculture related service. Entry 24, by way of loading, unloading, packing, storing of, warehousing of rice. Very simple, straightforward, nothing to, no confusion whatsoever. Warehousing of minor forest produce, exempt. Here amendment is there. You may be asked, it's a very tricky examiner is there, he may put this question. Storage or warehousing of, now it is only cereals, pulses, fruits, vegetables. All the others are eliminated. It was there before, now they have removed all of these. So this exemption partly has been withdrawn. So storing, warehousing of cereals, pulses, fruits, vegetables. These are only covered. All others were there before, but now it has been eliminated. So 24B is important from your examination point of view, even in your supplementary study paper also. Let me see where it is given so that I can tell you which is this entry number. It is 24B. The 24B chronological order, you can see that the entries have been given. 24B, it is there in page number 29. 18th July 2022 onwards, this modification has been made. Okay. Page 29. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Tirupati. Okay. So I think this is clear. Then 53A, services by way of fumigation in warehouse of agricultural produce. This also there is a small change here. I will tell you. This one has come in entry 53A, services by way of fumigation in a warehouse of agricultural produce. So since it was duplicate there in 54, that 54 they have removed it. Fine. So 54 also multiple activities are there. Cultivation of plants, rearing of law or other than horses, agricultural operations, supply of farm labor, processes carried out at agricultural farm, all these processes are given. Important point is essential characteristics is not altered and it is marketable for the primary market. These are the conditions to be satisfied. Fine. Renting or leasing of agro machinery or vacant land with or without a structure. Agricultural extension services means what? Any training of scientific knowledge in how to get the proper plants, how to do proper agriculture, all that. Then loading, unpacking, as already we have seen. Services by agricultural produce, marketing committee or board of services, but commission agent. Any marketing committee or commission agent is there for the purpose of sale of agricultural produce. Those services are also exempt. This fumigation and warehouse is removed because it is there in 53A. Then carrying out water agriculture related services, carrying out intermediate production service process as job work in relation to cultivation of plants, etc. And services by way of artificial insemination of livestock. That is on cattle. If you do this insemination, further proper way, the crops can be planted because of the fertilizers which are used through the produce of the cattle. So this also is covered here. Then services related to cultivation of plants, all this is also covered. Please go through this. Nothing to explain. It is very clear there. Breeding of fish, pisciculture, sericulture, all these are also covered. However, if you see, if the process is there, where the essential characteristics of the agricultural produce are totally altered, then it is liable to GST. Please make a note of this. Wherever the essential characteristics of the agricultural produce are altered totally, then it becomes liable to GST. For example, tomato is converted into tomato ketchup. That is it totally, the original product, it is totally changed. So therefore, it is exempt from, it is taxable to GST. Then process which agriculture makes agricultural produce marketable in the retail market. So they're liable to GST. Sometimes what happens, apart from the primary characteristics, if you undertake any process on the agricultural produce, due to which you are able to market it in the retail market. So agricultural produce is there. You are able to, you are doing some process on that, due to which you are making it marketable in the retail market. This is very much liable to GST. Renting or leasing of agro machinery or vacant land with or without a structure, incidental, this is also exempt. Example, Mulchand is leased out to a farmer, vacant land for agriculture. It has a greenhouse and storage head, incidental to the use of agriculture, is very much exempt from GST. Agricultural extension services, as I told you, if you are applying any scientific research or knowledge to the agricultural practices through farmer education and training, the main objective of this AES agricultural extension services is to transmit the technical knowledge to the farmers. Then agricultural marketing committee, as I told you, we've already seen. Warehousing of agricultural produce, loading, unloading, packing, storage, warehouse. Processed tea and coffee. Tea leaves are agricultural produce, but not final tea. Similar way, coffee beans are agricultural produce, but not the final coffee. Again, sometimes sugar cane is processed into jaggery. That is also not an agricultural activity. These covering are these explanations and clarifications are given. Similarly, milling of paddy into rice. Whether it is an intermediate production process eligible for exemption, this has been extensively clarified by the government. Milling of paddy is not an intermediate production process. It is a process carried out after the cultivation is over and paddy has been harvested. So therefore, it is not used. The processing of paddy into rice is not done by the cultivators, but by the rice millers. Also, essential characteristics gets modified. So therefore, paddy into rice is not intermediate production process. Therefore, it is not eligible for exemption under this entry. Very important point. Recently, it has been changed. So with this, we come to the end of the agricultural activities. Converting paddy into rice is liable for GST. Yes, it is very much liable to GST. Case 24B case, why other agricultural product are removed from warehouse? 24B. Let us look at 24B. It is just that they wanted to get it in tax, because storage or warehousing of these particular other products apart from this, they wanted to get it into the GST bracket. They felt it is technically not agriculture related service, so therefore it is brought into the tax. Over a period of time, the government will make everything taxable. Please make it, that will eventually happen, because the benefit of input tax credit will be there only if the goods are chargeable to tax. So they'll put a nominal tax, let's say 4% or 5% or very nominal to that matter. So therefore, the cost also is not. So eventually, please look at a situation down the line that no exemptions will be there. Now we come to education services. Now education services, please bear in mind that the types of education services for which exemption is given and for certain specified services are, first one is preschool and services, and sometimes preschool and then a primary school and higher education, and next also colleges. But the thing is, the colleges needs to give the degrees approved by the law enforced. The colleges have to give the degrees, qualification should be recognized by the law enforced. These are the three types of education institutions to which the GST is applicable. So what are all the services given? First one, services provided by an education institution to its students, faculty and staff. So any services which the education institution provides to these are exempt. The next one, services provided by education institution by way of conduct of entrance examination under against consideration in form of entrance fee. So you're conducting an entrance examination for which you're taking some fee, that also is exempt from GST. Then services provided to an education institution, for providing it to an education institution by way of transportation of students, faculty and staff, catering, including any midday meals scheme sponsored by the central government, etc. These are also exempt. These are a very, very critical point. Services provided to an education institution. This word "to" is very important. Till now, we have already seen the services which are provided by. If I am providing the service, that service is exempt. But here, the law makes an exception that even if the services are provided to, that is, a service provider need not be the service provider need not be your education institution. It can be the service recipient also by way of transportation of students, faculty and staff. Transport operator is there. Transport operator is providing the services. Okay, transport operator is providing the services to the education institution. it is exempt. Then catering, including midday meal scheme sponsored by the government. Catering services are provided to the education institution. This also is exempt from GST. Then also there is a continuation. Transportation is one. Please make a note down. Services to education institution. First one is transportation. Second one is catering. Third one, security, cleaning, housekeeping services, which is performed in an education institution. This is a very, very critical point. The services have to be performed in an education institution. That means if education institution is organizing some function outside in one auditorium, their security is being arranged. That will not come here. The security, cleaning or housekeeping services have to be provided in such education institution. Only then it will be exempt. Then service relating to admission to or conduct of examination. This also, if you're providing any services to the education, it is exempt. Supply of online educational journals or periodicals. Online journals, periodicals are provided to the education institution. That also is exempt. So now, important point here is that entry B, that is this particular entry B, what we have seen, this 1, 2, 3, 4, it is to be applicable only to the education institution which is providing the preschool as well as the higher secondary education. So that means preschool till 1st to 12th class is only covered here. So I hope this is clear. So these particular 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 will be applicable preschool and higher secondary. So as I told you, what are the three types of education institutions? First is preschool, second is higher secondary, and third is education for granting qualification under any law. This particular entry, that is entry number B, is applicable only to the pre-primary and higher education services. Further, nothing contained in this sub 5 shall apply to institution providing by way of preschool and education up to higher secondary or equivalent, or education as a part of the approved vocation. Therefore, will apply only to pre-primary and higher secondary. Clear? So therefore, if you see what are all trying to be covered here. Now, education services means all the education services cannot be exempt. Like a private coaching center is there. They will charge huge money for the coaching. Do you give them exemption for GST? Definitely not, because only to certain specified services the exemption is given. That is what is important for us here. So therefore, here what happens? What is the education institution? It provides the preschool and higher secondary. Second one, education for obtaining qualification under an offering course. And third one, education as a part of an approved vocational education course, the definition of which we have already covered. So these three are the education institutions. So conduct of degree courses by colleges, university or institutions, it is exempt, very much exempt, because it gives the grant of qualification. Training given by private coaching institutes, not covered because they don't lead to grant of recognized qualification. Okay, because you give the training, after you write the exam, if you pass or fail, it doesn't depend on this fellow who has given the coaching. The third one, education as a part of a prescribed qualification for obtaining qualification recognized by law of a foreign country. Definitely not. Only Indian law course is covered here. If you do some graduation in abroad and all, there is no exemption here just to be provided. Okay, as Indian coaching institute is there, it gives you qualification under law. Like a lot of other foreign courses are there. They set up their offices here to offer the non-Indian courses. All that is chargeable to tax. No exemption is given. This we have already seen the definition of approved vocational education course. Fine. Then private ITIs, industrial training centers, they are also education institutions if the education is approved as a vocational educational course. Okay. Again, designated trades are only exempted. Designated trades are given in the Apprentices Act. Not very important. No need to remember anything. Just remember, trades notified under Apprentices Act 1961 are exempt from GST. Other than designated trades are liable to GST. As I told you, private coaching centers, even though they say that I will give you this, so and so passes, so and so ranks you have got, they can do all the drama in the world, but they have to pay the GST. Fine. You cannot say that I'm an education institution and avoid the tax for that. Then output services of lodging, boarding in hostels, etc., provided by such education institutions which are providing the preschool education and education up to higher secondary are fully exempt from GST. Hostel or boarding is again an auxiliary supply to the main supply of education services. So if any output services are there, which hostel facility, lodging boarding facility is there, in that particular situation, all these pre-primary, higher secondary education or qualification by any law in force are fully exempt from GST. As in case of boarding schools, services are naturally bundled, principal supplies education, therefore it is exempt. Okay. Sometimes education institutions provide dual qualifications. In the two education qualifications, the time you have to see put it as a mixed supply. Also, these days, Indian Institute of Management or Indian School of Business, they also have certain short-term courses for which they only give the degree or certification. It is very much clarified that those degree or certification is not a qualification given by the law. So therefore, under GST is applicable. Extracurricular activities or hobby classes, this also we have to take it as naturally bundled. Since it is clubbed with the main service of education, it is very much exempt from GST. As I told you, in this 31/1/2018, IIM Act has come into force. Also, IIMs can grant degrees, diplomas, other academic distinctions, specify the criteria and process, then also the academic content. So as per curriculum, for obtaining the qualification under law, those are exempt from GST. But therefore, basically long duration course, which is 1 year or more, which provide a degree or diploma recognized by the law in force, it is exempt. But the short duration course will give only participation certificate, that is chargeable taxable at 18%. Then with regard to canteens or cafeterias also, it is clarified that if it is operated by the education institution directly, then it is exempt. If it is outsourced to a third person and third person operates the canteen, it is chargeable to tax. Fine. Then maritime training institutes is basically giving the training in your naval activity, like Navy related activity, merchant Navy related activity. So maritime training institutions are also clarified to be covered as an educational institution, since it is a modular employment course and all the courses conducted by them are exempt, subject to other conditions what is to be fulfilled as per the Maritime Institutions Act. Then further important points, if IIM is there, it once the 3 years course is over, the students want to go for interviews. So what happens is the IIM calls all the big companies for campus interviews. So for this campus interviews, the IIM charges the amount from the respective company, like IBM, Wipro, etc. All these companies go to IIM for the respective interviews and select the candidates. So whatever fees is charged by them for the campus placements is chargeable to tax. And then auxiliary services of transportation of students, faculty, staff, catering, including midday, security or cleaning are exempt only if they are auxiliary or provided to education institutions by way of higher secondary or equivalent, from preschool to HSC. As I told you, these three, transportation, catering, security, cleaning, if it is provided to any education institution from preschool to higher secondary, only then it is exempt. So again, important point, these three auxiliary education services, if they are provided to education institutions offering the degree or higher education or approved vocational education course, the same will not be exempt. Fine. As I told you, online education journals exempt only if they are providing to individuals by way of education as a part of curriculum for obtaining qualification by any law for the time being in force. So this online education journals or periodicals, if it is supplied to education institution which is providing pre-primary to higher secondary education, then it will be chargeable to tax. An example here, Little Kids, a preschool in the outskirts of Mumbai, has subscribed the online journals on child development and experiential learning. Comment on the taxability. As we discussed, since the online journals provided to the preschools are chargeable to tax, here there is no exemption. Any further questions? Yeah. Then SM Transporters has provided the service of transportation of students from resident to school and back to path wheel schools, higher secondary school, comment on the taxability. Transportation services are very much exempt, and since this is provided to higher education school, it is exempt from GST. Shiksha College offering degree courses has to conduct its half-yearly examination in November. For the purpose, it paid the honorarium to the paper setters and not on the rolls of Shiksha College. Further, it is also availed the printing services for printing the question papers for conducting comment on the taxability. Please try to answer this particular question which I have highlighted. Shiksha College. Anyone? Any questions here? And try to answer that question. Okay, who have answered? What about others? Yeah. So as I told you in this particular, let us go to that slide. Now these three services, if it is provided to preschool or higher secondary, it is exempt from GST. If it is provided to colleges giving the degrees, that is taxed. So what is the service which is mentioned here? The Shiksha, it is for honorarium to paper setters. So therefore, it definitely comes under the examination related fee, but here the restriction is not given. Point number 4 of what we saw earlier. Let us see that point 4 here. Services related to admission or conduct or examination by such institution. So this is covered for the degree services also. So therefore, it will be exempt from GST. So therefore, in this case, honorarium to paper setters and examiners not ruled for their services. This is exempt from GST. Also, printing services for printing question paper also is related to conducting of the examination. Therefore, it is exempt. I hope you got the clarity. Next, Gyani Public School, a higher secondary school, has hired the Suvidha services for security and housekeeping. Security and housekeeping provided within the premises are exempt. The said are exempt. Subsequently, the school hired Suvidha services for providing security and housekeeping service. School's annual day function organized in auditorium outside the school campus. Since we have already discussed this, all of you must be knowing the security and housekeeping services needs to be provided in the education institution. But in this case, it is provided elsewhere where the school's annual day was there, so that is very much chargeable to tax. Then Durham Institute of Technology, private engineering college, offers postgraduate engineering programs. all the engineering courses, including the distance learning postgraduate engineering program, are recognized by the law. So in this case, it is chargeable to tax or not? Please try to answer. If you see here, all the courses are recognized by the law. Since it is recognized by the law, then it is exempt from GST. It is very clear. So just a summary of all of these exempt input services, where the education institution providing the preschool or education up to HSE, transportation of students, faculty and staff exempt, catering including, this is services provided to, okay, catering is also covered here, security, cleaning or housekeeping also is covered, admission of conduct of examination also is covered. Then services relating to admission to or conduct of the examination by such institution. This is again the second category of education institution is education institution providing the education as a part of a curriculum for obtaining a recognized qualification. So education is there as a part of the curriculum for the purpose of obtaining a recognized qualification. In that particular situation, services relating to admission to or conduct of examination by such institution, and also supply of online educational journals and periodicals. These particular two services are exempt. Then approved vocational service, admit or conduct of examination, only this one particular point is exempt. So this table is very important for you to understand the various categories of exemptions to be given, and also the various categories of exemptions to be given with regard to input services of the educational institutions. Fine. I hope this is clear. This was your discussion, extensive discussion regarding the second question, little kids. Let us go back to that. Healthcare services, we'll see now. But before that, someone had a doubt. Let us go to that particular service. Where is that little kids? Little kids, a preschool in outskirts, has subscribed the online journals for child development and experiential learning. Comment on the taxability. For understanding the solution, we go to this table. It is very, very clear. Online educational journals, if you see here, see, it is an input service. Online education journals is being supplied to little kids school by someone. If you see the exempt input services, it is not applicable to education institution providing the preschool education. It is applicable only to curriculum for obtaining the recognized qualification. That is only the degree courses. So that is why it is not exempt. Because little kids online education journals is taxable. It is not given in the list. I hope it is clear. If it is not clear, let me know. I'll again explain. Then, healthcare services. Healthcare services. Any further questions before we move to healthcare services? Yeah. Services by a veterinary clinic in relation to healthcare of animals or birds. Self-explanatory, if any veterinary clinic is there in relation to healthcare, it provides the services, then it is subject to, not subject to GST, it is exempt. Then entry 74, the services by way of healthcare services by clinical establishment or authorized medical practitioner or paramedics. Services provided by way of transportation of patient in an ambulance. This is entry number 74. This is important. Here there is an exception which is given. So as usual, let us go back to the supplementary study paper. If you go to the supplementary study paper, entry 74, page number 30. If you see, there is a small amendment which has been made here. What is the small amendment? It says that room rental, okay. However, nothing contained in this entry shall apply to the services provided by a clinical establishment by way of providing room. I hope everyone have your supplementary study paper. Page number 30, entry number 74. Other than ICU, NICU, critical care, etc., room charges exceeding 5,000 per day. If it is charged to a person receiving the healthcare services, that is chargeable to tax. So therefore, this you can expect the question based on this one. So other than ICU or other critical unit or other NICU is there, neonatal incentive for the babies. If other than these rooms, if you just go to the room, get yourself admitted, that room is some luxury room for which they are charging more than 5,000 per day, that it is chargeable to tax. Then services provided by cord blood banks by way of preservation of stem cells. Stem cells are being preserved in this particular situation. This is also a healthcare service. Okay, so therefore here this is very clear. So this is also exempt from GST. Cord blood bank services by way of preservation of stem cells. So what is healthcare services? It is explained here. Healthcare services is by service by way of diagnosis or treatment for care of illness, injury, deformity, etc., or pregnancy in any recognized form of medicines in India. It also includes the services in by way of transportation of passenger to and from, that is the ambulance service. Does not include hair transplant or cosmetic or plastic surgery, except when undertaken to restore or reconstruct anatomy or functions of body affected due to congenital defects, development abnormalities, injury or trauma. So what does it mean? Hair transplant, cosmetic surgery, plastic surgery, all these are not healthcare services. Please make a note of it. But however, if this cosmetic or plastic surgery is being undertaken to restore or reconstruct the anatomy, for example, if one person is born without a nose or cleft lip, okay, for that you reconstruct it and get a nose for him and perform a surgery for the lips also, that is exempt. But if you have a nose, you say my nose is not good, I don't like my nose, I want another nose, that is again a cosmetic surgery, not essential. Okay, it is not due to any trauma, injury, etc. So therefore, or congenital, that is ever since you are born. So in that case, it is chargeable to tax. Okay. Rent of rooms, as I told you, inpatients exempt. In this particular non-ICU, more than 5,000 per day, it is chargeable to tax. Freelance services provided by doctors to hospitals, it is exempt. So if a doctor is there, he is providing the freelance services to the hospital. Okay, doctor is providing freelance services to the hospital, it is exempt from GST. A lot of hospitals, they hire the doctors. They hire the doctors and they take their services, and the doctor come and consult once in for 2 hours, and they go and they get paid something. So that is also exempt, similar to healthcare services. Food supplied to patients. If the patient is admitted in the hospital, the doctor or nutritionist is telling that you have to give them this particular thing. Then if the inpatients are given this particular food, it is a part of composite supply of healthcare, where healthcare is the principal supply. So therefore, this becomes exempt. But if apart from patient, you are going to take care of the patient, you are eating something in the hospital, that is not exempt. That is chargeable to tax. Only for the patients, as per the nutrition, it is exempt. Then renting of part of hospital premises or clinical establishment for other purposes or for display of advertisement, this is chargeable to tax. That means what? If you in your premises some place is there, in that place you are putting a hoarding of one particular other organization for advertisement, because many patients go, they will see that for the purpose of advertisement, the hospital get that money. That is not healthcare services. That is very much chargeable to tax. Then, example, Arogya Multi-Specialty Hospital provides the palliative care to patients facing serious and life-threatening illness. Palliative care is given to improve the quality of life but the goal is not to cure the disease. Till that person is alive, then till that person is alive, he will make sure that he is treated well. So cure is not the objective. So comment on the taxability. This also, just because that person is not be able to cure, it is not that as if it is a healthcare service. It is not a healthcare service. This also is very much a healthcare service. Therefore, it is chargeable to. Therefore, it is exempt from GST. So only recognized system of medicines is exempt. That is allopathy, Unani, etc. Reiki is not recognized here. So recognized system of medicines are only exempt. Fine. So that was your healthcare services. Congenital defects means right from the birth itself, the problem is there. Cleft lip, you can Google it, CLEFT. Cleft lip is an issue. Many kids in India, ever since they are born, they have that issue. It's a congenital. That is, ever since you are born, you have that effect. Fine. So with that, we come to the conclusion of healthcare services. Then government-related services. We'll go through these also. Services to government authority by way of any activity in relation to the function entrusted to the municipality. Okay, under 243W of the Constitution. Government authority in relation to panchayat under 243G of the Constitution. This also is exempt. Then further services which are provided by the government or state government, excluding the following services. Okay, Department of Posts. All these were there before, now it is removed. Okay, that means what? All services provided by Department of Post is chargeable to tax. Earlier exclusions were given, now no exclusions are given. Some minor inclusions are there, that's covered by a separate entry. So all these were deleted. So straight away, Department of Post, it's very much chargeable to GST. Services in relation to aircraft or vessel inside or outside the precincts of the port or an airport. Okay, in relation to the aircraft, if any services are being provided inside or outside the premises of the airport or purely in relation to the airport, then that also is not covered here. Excluded means it is chargeable to tax. Transport of goods and passengers, chargeable to tax. Any other service other than the above provided to business entity other than A to C. Now, here also there is a, if you see, there is a small amendment here. Let us go to the supplementary study paper once again. If you see here, yeah, it's the same thing applies here also. If you see here, there are these exclusions are given. A, B, and C. A, B, and C are also there in entry number 7. If this explanation is given, A, B, and C. So the same amendment which has happened to this Department of Posts will be there in entry number 7 and entry number 8 also. Fine. So these are what is the important point which you have to bear in mind. And services, these are also pretty similar. Please go through it. Services by the central government, state government, where consideration does not exceed 5,000. It can be your stamp duty, it can be your license fee, registration fee, all that is covered here. Then supply of service by government entity to central government, state government, etc. in the form of grants. Any grants are given for that, any services are given by the government entity to the central government. That is also exempt. Then old age home, which is run by the central government, state government, or entity registered under 12AB. This is also there. To the residents aged 60 years against consideration up to 25,000 per month per member, provided the consideration is including charges for boarding, lodging, and maintenance. So old age home is there. It run by the central government, state government, or entity registered under 12AB. It is provided to the residents whose age is 60 years or more. Consideration is up to 25,000 per month per member. In that it is exempt, provided it is including the charges for boarding, lodging, and maintenance. Okay. Then Then 34A, services supplied by the central government, state government to their undertakings or PSUs by way of guaranteeing the loan. So public sector undertaking is there. If they take a loan, the government guarantees the bank for the repayment. So any such guarantees are given. In that case, these are also exempt. Such services by way of guaranteeing from the banking is exempt. Then any sort of registration which is provided by the central government, state government, union territory, or local authority, or testing, calibration, safety check, etc. All these are exempt. Then issuance of passport, visa, driving license, birth certificate, all services provided in relation to them are exempt. Fine. Then services provided by central government by way of tolerating non-performance of contract. But for this, if you see, exemption is already given, which we discussed in the last session. In the I think second session, we discussed few aspects where tolerating non-performance, etc. is exempt. So therefore, what services are provided by the central government, it's anyways covered here. Wherever liquidated damages is to be paid to the central government, that is exempt from GST. Then services provided by the central government, etc., by way of assignment of right to use natural resources to an individual farmer. Then this also is covered. Then assignment of right to use the natural resources for cultivation of plants, etc. That also is to be taken into consideration. Then services provided by the central government, state government, etc. by way of deputing officers after office hours or on holidays for inspection of container stuff. In case customs related inspection has to be done, merchant overtime charges, such services provided by the central government by way of deputing the officers, exempt. Services supplied by state government to excess royalty collection contractor. This is basically the mining leaseholders do the mining and the royalty has to be paid to the government. The government appoints an excess royalty collection contractor on behalf of the state government. If the mineral which is dispatched is higher than what was estimated, excess royalty will be collected, and this excess royalty which is received by the state government is not taxed. Then the services provided by rehabilitation professionals recognized under the Rehabilitation Council by way of rehabilitation therapy, counseling, etc. are also or an entity registered under 12AA of the Income Tax Act. Any rehabilitation professionals are providing any services by way of therapy, etc. and at medical establishments, and they are providing to the establishments run by the government or entity registered under 12AB of the Income Tax Act 1961. Those are also exempt. So you are a professional authorized to do the counseling activity. You are doing the counseling activity to the establishments or entity registered under 12AB. That is exempt from GST. Then police or security agencies of the government to PSU or private business entities are not exempt from GST. So government is there, provides the services to private entities. Similarly, match is being organized. IPL is there. Match is being organized. Association or the franchise requests the police to arrange the police protection for which the amount is paid. On this, the GST is very much applicable because it is provided to the private entity. Then services provided by state government by way of general insurance, okay, to employees of state government, etc. These are also exempt from tax. Fine. So here we come to the end of the government services. Then there is construction services. Again, here also some amendments have taken place. Any further queries here? Let us look at those. There are no queries at the moment. So let's take a short break and resume and continue our discussion with regard to the exemptions. See you in the next 10 minutes. So next one is construction services. Services by way of pure labor contracts of construction, erection, commissioning, installation, completion, etc., or alteration of civil structure or any other original works pertaining to the machine beneficiary-led individual house construction. Individual house construction pure labor contracts are exempt. Or enhancement under the Housing for All urban mission or Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, that is economy housing scheme. This is also exempt. Then services supplied by electrical distributing utilities by way of construction, erection, commissioning, installation of infrastructure for extending the electricity distribution network up to the tube well of the farmer or agriculturist for agriculture use. So utility is supplying the electrical distribution service for the purpose of extending the electricity network till the farmer or agriculture for the agriculture use, that also is covered. Then pure labor contracts of construction, erection, installation of original works pertaining to single residential unit, otherwise than as a part of a residential complex. Just one residential unit is there. To that extent, you are doing pure labor contracts, not material, pure labor contracts. That is exempt. Then supply of TDR, transfer of development rights, floor surface area FSI, long-term lease of land by landowner to developer are exempt, subject to the condition. Most important thing here is constructed flats are sold before issuance of completion certificate and tax is paid on them. As we saw in the supply concept when we were discussing that this supply of land by landowner to developer is exempt. Condition is, main condition here is the constructed flats should be sold before issuance of the completion certificate, and on that the GST has to be paid. Then this development rights, FSI, long-term lease, whatever amount is taken by the landowner is exempt from GST. In case any flats are sold after the completion certificate, withdrawal shall be exempt. The exemption shall be withdrawn. The withdrawal should be limited to the 1% of value of the affordable houses and 5% of value in case of other than affordable houses. I hope you got this point very clearly. Here, what does it? Let us take an example here for understanding this particular point. Here, there is a builder A who takes, say, 10 flats on development from landowner P. Okay, landowner. So here, if 10 flats are sold before completion with the GST, that is 5% or 1% as the case may be, then transfer of development rights by landowner to developer is exempt. Okay, this is the situation. Now, if 5 flats are sold post completion certificate, then exemption shall be withdrawn and the same TDR, that is the transfer of development rights, will be taxable at the rate of 1 or 5%, as the case may be. Okay, I hope you got this point. On those 5 flats, only, this is an example explaining this particular concept. I hope you got this clarity. Then moving forward, passenger transportation services. Now, a lot of amendments are made in this. We shall first look at this particular sections. Then we'll go to the supplementary study paper to understand what are the changes which are happening. Then transport of passengers with or without accompanied belongings. Here, the amendment is economy class. Economy class was not there before. Now it has been added. So air in economy class only, exemption will be given. So if the airport is located in state of Arunachal Pradesh, Assam, Manipur, all these particular states, embarking or terminating. So flight can start from these airports or land in those airports. In this particular situation, if you're traveling in economic class, it is exempt because all these are new airports. So therefore, to encourage them, this measure is taken. Then non-air conditioned carriage also is exempt other than radio taxi for transportation of passengers, state carriage other than air conditioned state carriage. Now here, what is the amendment which has happened? We'll also cover the supplementary study paper to discuss that. The amendment is in these particular transport of passengers where 9 subsection 5 e-commerce operator is attracted, there is no exemption which is given. That is what is given is the amendment which has covered. So therefore, these transport non-AC, if it is booked through e-commerce operator, then there is no exemption. That is what is the amendment which has happened. Then services provided to central government by way of transport of passengers with or without accompanied belongings by air embarking from or terminating at a regional connectivity scheme airport engaged consideration in the way of viability gap funding. That means what? If new airport is there, the central government gives some consideration. It is called viability gap funding. That is still the requisite number of passengers are attracted. The government gives some sort of compensation. This compensation is exempt from GST. However, nothing contained in this shall apply on or after expiry or a period of 3 years from the date of commencement of operations of the RDS. From the date, so on or after expiry of period of 3 years. So whenever the operation commences, this exemption is valid only to the extent of the 3 years which is given. That is the most important point you have to remember. Then entry 17, passenger transportation of service, transportation of passengers with or without accompanied belongings by the following: railways in a class other than first or air conditioned coach, metro, metro rail or monorail or tramway, inland waterways, public transport, meter cabs, etc. Here also amendment is done. If any of these transportation of passengers are booked through e-commerce operator, then it is liable to tax. Then services by way of transportation of goods by road except services of goods transport agency or courier agency. Transportation of goods other than GTA or courier agencies is exempt. Inland waterways. Inland waterways means within the country only, between two places through the boat, the transportation of goods happens. That is also exempt. Then here also amendment has happened. Transportation by rail or vessel from one place to the other of the following goods. What all are there here? Relief material meant for victims or natural or man-made disasters, calamities, accidents, mishap, defense or military equipments, newspaper or magazines registered with registrar, railway equipments or material where is deleted now. Earlier it was there as an exemption. This has been deleted. So this also is an important point because an amendment has happened in this particular entry. Then GTA service also one of the most critical amendments has happened here. Earlier in service tax negative list also was there. If the goods transport agency is transporting the goods for which consideration in a single carriage is not more than 1500 or all the goods for single consignee not more than 750 rupees, there were specific exemptions which are given. Now both have been deleted. So that means this concept of 1500, 750 is no longer there. Only these particular items are exempt. What are those? Agricultural produce, milk, salt and food grain including flour, pulses and rice, organic manure, okay, newspaper or magazines, relief materials meant for victims, defense or military equipments. These are only covered as a exemption. So that 1500, 750 is no longer there. Critical amendment, please make a note of it. Entry number 20, okay, entry number 21, okay. Definitely a question can be expected based on this one. Then entry 21A, services provided by GTA to an unregistered person, including an unregistered casual taxable person other than the following recipients: factory registered under Factories Act, society registered, cooperative society, body corporate, all these are covered here. And services provided by GTA to an unregistered person other than the following: partnership firm, whether registered or not, casual taxable person or under the Central Goods and Service Tax or IGST. These are also, it is exempt. Service provided by GTA to an unregistered person. Okay. 21B, services provided by GTA by way of transport of goods to all these particular establishment of government, state government, local authority, government agencies which has taken registration under section 51. Fine. So these are some of the services which are covered in the goods transport agency. Let us summarize all this. So if goods GTA services is provided to unregistered individual end consumer exempt from the GST, what does the goods transport agency mean? It means any person who provides the service in relation to the transport of services by road and issued the consignment note or whatever name called. Issuance of consignment note is compulsory for a goods transport agency to be considered as a supplier of service here. If consignment is not issued by the transporter, the service provider will not be considered as a GTA. Individual trucks, etc., who don't issue the consignment note are not covered within the meaning of good GTA. So examples of GTA, Hariprasad owns a truck and operates it himself. He carries the goods booked for the truck without issuance of consignment note. He is definitely not a goods transport service provider. But however, there is an exemption given for this also. Therefore, the services are not chargeable to tax. Courier agency, any person engaged in the door-to-door transportation of documents, articles, etc., is known as the courier agency. Banking and financial services. Now, this entry also has been deleted. You will see in the amendments, this is no longer there. So, services by RBI has been brought to tax now. It is no longer exempt. Services by way of extending the deposits, loans, or advances insofar as the consideration is by way of interest or discount. It is again exempt, but in case of credit card services, if you are paying the screen is assured. अभी आ रहा है क्या? I can continue. Okay, done. Yeah. So then entry 27A, services provided by banking company to basic savings bank deposit account holders, Jan Dhan Yojana. Then services by acquiring bank to a person in relation to settlement up to 2,000 in single transaction transacted through the credit card, debit card. What does this mean? Now, when you go to a particular shop and you swipe the credit card for 2,000 rupees or say 1,500 rupees, 1,500 rupees is paid by the credit card company to the dealer. On this 1,500, 1.5% is taken as the service charge or commission by the credit card company. So 1,500, let us assume 15 rupees is taken as the respective commission or the service charge. Then what has to be done? If this 15 rupees is taken, on this there is no GST up to 2,000 rupees in a single transaction. But more than 2,000, GST will be applicable. Fine. That is this one. And then services by intermediary of financial services. Services by intermediary of financial services located in the multi-services special economic zone with IFSC status to a customer located outside India. So what is this? Financial services intermediary is there. They provide the services to a customer located outside India and for currencies other than INR. That means what? He is located here. Like example, if you want me to tell, Wells Fargo Bank is in SEZ. That bank is located here in the Indian territory, but in a special economic zone. So here the services are being provided to one of the customers of Wells Fargo Bank, which is located outside the country. And in other than currencies other than INR, the services are being provided. So these are exempt from GST. Then services provided to RBI also is taxable. By RBI also has become taxable now. So to also has become taxable. Then service charge, documentation fees, broking charges, admin charges, entry charges, all the fees or charges over and above the interest on loan advance deposit are not exempt, liable to GST. Late payment on outstanding dues, interest on outstanding specifically excluded, same is liable to GST. Sale of foreign currency between the banks and authorized dealers are exempt. Sale to the general public is very much chargeable to tax. Now we go to the EMI services. What is these days? EMI transactions have become very, very popular. If you go to a shop, you can actually buy a phone which is 1 lakh rupees without paying a rupee and coming back. And everything is converted into EMI. So here what happened, we look at two situations, how it is to be taken into consideration. For the first situation, X sells a mobile phone to Y. Cost of the mobile phone is rupees 40,000. However, X gives Y an option to pay in installments 11,000 every month before the 10th of the following month over the next 4 months. 4,000 rupees is the interest what you have taken. As there any contract, if there is any delay in payment by Y beyond the scheduled date, Y would be liable to pay additional or penal interest amounting to rupees 500 per month per delay, right? So this is the interest which is levied in case he does not pay the respective phone. There are two elements here. First element is the basic interest which is charged on the phone, that is exempt. But the penal interest which is charged for the delay, that will be chargeable to tax. Second example, X sells a phone to Y. Cost is 40,000. Y has the option to avail loan at 2.5% per month for purchasing the mobile from ABC. Terms allowed 4 months to repay additional payment. In here also, regular interest will be exempt, but the penal interest shall be chargeable to GST. Then life insurance business services. As I told you, these are all, please go through all of these. Services of life insurance business provided by way of annuity under the National Pension System or regulated by the Pension Fund Regulatory PFRDA are exempt. Life insurance business provided or agreed to be provided by the Army, Naval and Air Force group insurance funds. These group insurance funds provide the services to the members of the Army, Naval and the Air Force. These are also exempt. Then Naval Group Insurance Fund to the personnel of the Coast Guard under the group insurance schemes, exempt. Life insurance agreed to be provided by the Central Armed Police Forces Group Insurance Fund and the Central Armed CAPF Armed Police Force, that also exempt. 29B. Then all these you please go through. Don't have to remember. Only if a very strict examiner is there, he will ask a question based on this. These yojanas, try to remember as your best. Under all these schemes, there is all these yojanas, if you remember, it is on this. There is no question of any GST which is applicable. ESIC, EPF, there are some amendments in this. We will go back to the supplementary paper and discuss it. EPF, coal mines, NPS trust, IRDI services to insurers, all these are exempt from GST. General insurance business under certain schemes, multiple schemes are there. All those schemes, it is exempt. Please go through it. It is in entry number 35, not very important from examination point of view. Then pension schemes, Atal Pension Yojana, state level pension schemes, etc. is exempt. Business facilitator or correspondent. If any person is a business facilitator or a business correspondent to a banking company with regard to the bank accounts in the rural area branch, it is exempt from GST. Also, if any person is providing a service as an intermediary to a business facilitator or a business correspondent with regard to the services mentioned above, that also is exempt from GST. Business facilitator or business correspondent is providing the services to an insurance company also, which is there in a rural area, that also exempt from GST. Fine. Then further services here, pure services provided to the government. Here also small amendment in few particular points where the service is provided to the central government, state government, union territory or local authority. In addition to this, government authority or government entity also was mentioned, which is now removed. Okay. When I say pure services, it refers to the services other than works contract. So other than works contract, it should be purely services, not sale of goods. These provided services, if you provide to the government, it is exempt from GST. But all these, if you see, government authority, government entity will not be covered. Others all will be very much covered. Then composite supply of goods and services to the government. Here also, there is a small amendment which is made. Composite supply of goods and services. If you go to the supplementary study paper, page number 22. 1st January 2022 onwards, this amendment has come. Here, as I told you, pure services or a government authority or a government entity is deleted. Same way, composite supply of goods or services, everything remain the same, wherein supply of goods should not be more than 25%. This is very important. Supply of goods should not be more than 25% of the value. In that particular situation also, it is exempt. Here also the government authority, government entity words are deleted. I hope you got this clarity. Then services by way of activity in relation to function entrusted to the panchayat, in relation to any function entrusted to municipality under 234W of the Constitution. Then further entries, services provided by the fair price shops to the government by way of sale of food grains, kerosene, sugar, edible oil under the public distribution system. Commission or margin by way of consideration in that is covered here. Then services provided to the central government, state government under any insurance scheme for which total premium is paid by the central government, state or union territory administration. Then also entry 72, services provided to the central government, state under any training program for which the total expenditure is borne. All these are exempt. Services provided to government, that is an important point which you have to remember, but most of these exemptions are withdrawn because most of it I've tried to integrate it in the slide. But if you don't get confused, that is why anyways we'll revise the supplementary paper. So there most of these exemptions are removed. Like I'm able to recollect the services provided by GST network to the government. This has been removed. This is no longer there. Entry number 51. Like these others are also removed. We'll see those ones. What are examples of pure services? Supply of manpower for cleaning the roads, public places, architect services, consulting engineer. All these are pure services provided to the government. Composite services, work of maintenance of street lights. If you are giving that work to an agency, that is your composite services. Fine. Then leasing services, as I told you, upfront amount. Now, many persons may be having a land which is idle, not doing anything. So that land, this person may want to let it out to any particular person by giving a long-term lease of 30 years or more. In this particular situation, upfront amount is being paid. And here this mainly refers to the lands which are given by the state government industrial development corporations or any entity which is having 20% or more. If they give the land for a long-term lease for which an upfront amount is also collected, this is exempt from GST. Also, this upfront amount can be collected in installments also, but the schedule of payments should be mentioned beforehand. Okay. So what are the various leasing services? The leased plots shall be used for the purpose for which they are allotted. That is for industrial or financial activity in an industrial or business, financial business area. Okay. They will be used for the purpose only for which they are allotted. Conditions are there. State government will monitor and enforce the condition. If any violation is there due to any reason, in that particular situation, lessee, buyer, owner shall be jointly and severally liable. The lease agreement entered into by the original lessor, etc. For this particular terms and conditions, it will clearly be given that the central tax was exempt on the long-term lease of the plots. Subject to the condition, parties will undertake to comply with the same. These conditions are to be satisfied in case this leasing services amount needs to be exempt. This also has been removed. A service of leasing of assets by Indian Railways Finance Corporation to Indian Railways. This also is no longer there. It is chargeable to GST. Now, we shall look at all those now. Then legal services. Service we have seen under the reverse charge mechanism. Under reverse charge mechanism, it is subject to tax. But if he's for arbitral tribunal is providing the services to business tax registered business person, paid under reverse charge. But if the services are being provided to any person other than business entity, exempt if a business entity with aggregate turnover up to such amount as make it eligible for exemption from a registration. That means if you are paying to, if you are providing the services to a business entity, again, this business entity is not registered or not liable to be registered because it is less than the respective threshold, then that is also exempt. Will not be subject to GST. Moving forward, services provided by senior advocate also by way of legal services to any person other than the business entity or a business entity with aggregate turnover up to such amount in the preceding financial year, which is very same, but that was for advocate or firm of advocates, senior advocate also covered. Sponsorship of sports event. If you are providing any services by way of sponsorship, but sports events have to be organized by National Sports Federation or affiliated federation, where participating teams represent any district, state, zone, or country, then it is exempt. So therefore, simple example, a simple conclusion, IPL is not exempt because the participating teams represent the franchisees. Then organized by Association of Indian Universities, Inter-University Sports, Sports School, all these are exempt. Central Civil Services, Olympic Association, Panchayat Yuva Krida Kelna scheme, all these sponsorship services are exempt. Then skill development services which are provided by NSDC, National Skill Development Corporation, Sector Skill Council, Assessment Agency, Training Partner, all these are exempt. Please go through it. Just have to go through, nothing complicated in this. Everything can be understood. Skill development services, services of assessing bodies empaneled centrally by the Directorate General of Trading, Ministry of Skill Development by way of assessments under the Skill Development Initiative scheme. Some assessing bodies are there which will check how the training has been given and give the reports. These are empaneled, that is, arrangements are done directly by the Director General of Training. So the services what they provide are all exempt from GST. Training providers, that is the project implementation. So any training has to be done. The government institution will tie up with a third-party training agency for the purpose of providing this service. So the training providers, the services which are being provided under the Deen Dayal Upadhyaya Gramin Kaushalya Yojana, implemented by Ministry of Rural Development by way of offering skill certified by the National Council of Vocational Training. So this skill development services also is exempt. Then artist is there. He performs the folk or classical art forms of dance, music, or theatre. If consideration is not more than 1,50,000, then it is exempt. But the important point is the performance should be in folk or classical art forms of dance, music, or theatre. Consideration not more than 1,50,000. This is important. Then second one, if the exemption, if this performance is done in the capacity of a brand ambassador, then also exemption will not apply. All other art forms or Western dance forms are taxable. Admission to various events, admission to museum, wildlife sanctuary, tiger reserve, zoo, national park, exempt. Then by way of admission to protected monument, which is declared under the ancient monuments, etc. These are also exempt. Then wherever in this case the amount is not more than 500 rupees per person, admission to circus, dance, theatrical performance, drama, award function, concert, recognized sporting event, planetarium, all this is exempt provided it is not more than 500 rupees per person. Services by way of unincorporated body or not for entity registered under law to its own members by way of reimbursement of charges or trade union or any provision for carrying out any activity exempt from GST, it is exempt. Also in case of resident welfare association, up to 7,500 per month. This point number C refers to that only. If any contribution of up to 7,500 per month is collecting for sourcing of goods for the common use of the members in a housing society, etc., it is exempt up to 7,500. More than that, it is chargeable to tax. Then also unincorporated body or not-for-profit activities relating to welfare of industrial or agricultural labor or farmers, promotion of trade commerce to its own members against consideration, membership fee up to 1,000. So all these chamber of commerce will be there and multiple entities will be there. Up to 1,000 rupees per year is exempt. Membership fee, more than that, is chargeable to tax. Slump sale. If you are transferring a going concern as a whole or an independent part thereof by way of a slump sale totally, this is also exempt. Then supply of services associated with transit cargo to Nepal and Bhutan. Any transit cargo is there to Nepal and Bhutan, are providing some services relating to that, it is exempt. Now, this is an important amendment here, as we discussed in reverse charge also. services by way of a residential renting of residential dwelling for use, except when residential dwelling is rented out for registered person. So that means if you are just giving a residential dwelling for the purpose of renting, it is exempt. But if you are giving it residential dwelling to a registered person, it is taxable, and who has to pay the tax? That registered person has to pay the tax on the reverse charge basis. Then services by hotel, in guest house, club, as this also has been removed below 1,000 per day. This entry is no longer there. It is removed. Okay. So therefore, there may be an interpretation that even for the charitable activities, the 1,000 per day may not be there. Okay. But that's not the case, because there the 1,000 per day has not been deleted. Here only it has been deleted. Then services by way of transportation of goods by aircraft from a place outside India up to custom station. Transport of goods, aircraft is there. Outside India, you're getting the goods up to the custom station of clearance in India. That is exempt from GST. The satellite launch services supplied by ISRO Antrix Corporation of New Space India Limited, exempt from GST. A lot of these are eliminated, though. We'll just check those once we cover this particular list. Services by way of giving of hire to state transport undertaking, a motor vehicle meant to carry more than 12 passengers, or to a local authority electrically operated vehicle to carry more than 12 passengers, to goods transport agency, motor vehicles to a person carrying transportation to education institution, providing by way of preschool education and education up to higher secondary school or equivalent. Fine. So if you are giving on hire a motor vehicle to a person providing the services of transportation, I hope you got this point. The hire of vehicles to the first one is undertaking, second one is local authority, third one is good transport agency for transportation of goods, that is exempt. Motor vehicle, if you are giving on hire to the person providing the services of transportation, school is nowhere in the picture here. The person is providing the transportation. You have vehicles, one person is there who's providing the transportation service. You are giving your vehicles on hire to him so that he can provide the transportation services to the students, faculty, and staff. This also is exempt. Why? Because the consequent services what he provides to the preschool, that is also exempt. So this also has been made exempt. Service by way of access to road or bridge on payment of toll charges, access to road or bridge for payment of annuity, transmission, distribution, all these are exempt. Other services provided by the DISCOMs, electricity distribution companies, are liable to GST, like application fee for releasing electricity connection, rental charges, meter is there for that to take the rent, testing fee, charges for duplicate bill, labor charges, all these are chargeable to tax. Then Incubati is providing the services. Services provided by Incubati up to a total turnover of 50 lakhs in the financial year, subject to the following conditions. So now what happens? An Incubati is a business which is located in an incubator. Business incubators provide the facilities for the startups to scale up. So this Incubati is located in one of the startups, and he provides the services up to 50 lakhs. It is exempt. What are the conditions? The turnover has not exceeded 50 lakhs during the preceding financial year. And second, a period of 3 years has not elapsed from the date of entering into an agreement as an incubator. Incubati and incubator should be entering into an agreement. And if 3 years have not elapsed, and if turnover was not exceeded 50 lakhs in the preceding financial year, he can go for this particular exemption. Licensing, registration, analysis by FSSAI, and taxable services provided or to be provided by TBI, Technology Business Incubator, or STEP recognized, or bio incubators, etc. These are all exempt. Collecting or providing news by independent journalist, exempt. Entry number 49. Public libraries. If an organizer is there, he is holding a business exhibition outside India, he is providing the services to any person, it is exempt. Slaughtering of animals by way of preconditioning, pre-cooling, ripening, waxing, labeling, which do not alter the characteristics of the said fruits or vegetables. So all these are exempt. Please go through all of this, very self-explanatory. National Center for Cold Chain Development services are being provided for cold chain knowledge dissemination. Services by a foreign diplomatic mission, information under RTI, all these are exempt. Services provided by operators of a common biomedical waste treatment. This also has become taxable, I think. Once we go to that supplementary paper, we'll see. Services by way of public conveniences. Then services provided to recognized sports body by individual as a player, referee, umpire, coach, or team manager for participating in a sporting event which is organized by the recognized sporting body. However, services as selectors, commentators, curators are taxable. Franchise also, IPL, if any player is not, is also chargeable to tax. Fine. Now let us look at some questions. But before we go to these questions, we'll just go to quickly to the supplementary study paper and just relook at the exemptions if anything has been missed out or any particular exemptions have been changed. Yeah, I hope all of you can see. Exemptions from GST. These are the amendments. All these amendments were very critical. I would in fact go to an extent to say, when you're doing the exemptions topic, kindly look at the amendments first, this supplementary paper, and then go to the main study notes. Okay, so what are the amendments? First thing we have already covered, pure services, where this government and authority entity has been deleted. 3A also we have already covered. Entry 6 also we have already covered, wherein types of services have been removed. And 7 also is the same thing what we have covered. 8 also is the same thing. We are just revising whether in case we have missed out anything. 9 also is the same thing. This also we have seen. Entry number 12, services by way of renting of residential dwelling, except where it is rented to a registered person. This also we have seen. Air in economic class has been there. And as I've already told you, this one is very critical. B and C, that is non-conditioned, non-air conditioned contract carriage and stage carriage other than air conditioned carriage. This exemption shall not apply in case of services supplied through the e-commerce operator as by way of 9 subsection 5. That will very much be chargeable to tax. Then this also is the same in case of item number E, metered cabs or auto rickshaws. If these are done through e-commerce operator, exemption shall not apply. Transportation of goods by this thing, this exemption is no longer applicable. Okay, please bear in mind, we have seen this exemption in the notes. Entry number 19A is no longer applicable. Okay, 19A and 19B. 19A and 19 transportation services. Okay, please make sure that in that particular PPT also you don't consider this. As far as possible, I will try to delete only and give it to you. But just in case it is not there, you please refer to these particular sections. Okay, so this is no longer there. These two, because it is applicable only to 30th November 2022. Then this one, entry number 20, we have already seen. As I told you, railway equipments or materials have been deleted. Okay, this also we have already covered. Entry number 21, this 1500 and 750 are no longer there. This also we have seen. Storage warehousing only of cereals, pulse, fruits and vegetables have to be covered. This one also we have seen. Fumigation or agricultural produce is being deleted, already there in the other end. So then entry number 72, where you are providing the services provided to the central, state, union administration under any program for which 75% or more of the total expenses is borne by the central government, etc. Earlier it was total expenses. This has been changed. So entry 72 has been modified, where 75% or more is now the respective rule, for which if you see in the PPT, it was total expenditure. I will just change that now, for which 75% or more of the expenditure. This also is a important amendment which is there since 2021 now. Next. Then services by way of healthcare services, as I told you here also, that 5,000 rupees per day room other than ICU, non-ICU, it is chargeable to tax. This also we have seen. Training or coaching in recreational activities, that is to be provided by individual, that is exempt. Sports has to be provided with charitable entities registered under 12AB of the Income Tax Act, that is exempt. Now, what are the new exemptions which are there? These are also very important, which are not there in the PPT because it is there in the supplementary paper. I have not included it there. So here, services by Department of Post by way of postcard, inland letter, book post, and ordinary post. Envelopes weighing less than 10 grams. This it is new exemption. Then tour operator service, which is performed partly in India and partly outside India, supplied by the tour operator to a foreign tourist, to the extent of the value of the tour operator service which is performed outside India. So you are a tour operator, you are providing the service to a foreigner. In that, some is India, some is outside India. To the extent of the value which is there outside India, it is exempt. Okay. So how you have to calculate that? You have to value of the tour operator shall be such proportion, total consideration you have to see, number of days for which it is outside India, to the number of days total tour, or 50% of the consideration charged, whichever is less. This is the way in which you have to calculate. Fine. Whatever total consideration equal to the proportion number of days outside by total number of days, or 50% of the total consideration, whichever is less. So time equal to or exceeding 12 hours is 1 full day. So that some illustrations are also given here. You can just go through that. Exemption is 1 lakh into 2 by 5 plus 2 days in Nepal, 3 days in India, 2 by 5, or 50% of 1 lakh, whichever is lesser. So in this case, 40,000 is lesser, so that you have to take. Please go through it. It's very simple. The way in which it is done. Then national permit is to be granted by way of granting national permit to a goods carriage to operate through the India or the contiguous states. This also is exempt from GST. These are all the various exemptions which have been deleted. Okay, please bear in mind all these are no longer applicable. Very important. In the PPTs what we discussed, somewhere already there, we'll have to ignore them now because they are no longer there. Okay, what all are no longer there? Services by hotel, inn, etc. 1,000 rupees per day removed. Services by RBI removed. Services by IRDAI. Okay, services by IRDAI. This also has been removed. Okay, which is entry number 32. Okay, this also has been removed. I will delete everything in the PPT also before I upload so that you get the clarity. Then services by SEBI also has been deleted. Okay. Services of leasing of assets, rolling stock options, we already seen, that is also deleted. Then FSSAI, the Food Safety Regulatory Authority, which provides the services to the food business operators. This is also exemption removed. Then GST network, we have already seen. Then slot fumigation in warehouse, this also has been removed. So in 53A, what was there, that also fumigation of warehouse is removed at both the places. So that 53A also is no longer there. 53A, fumigation in warehouse of agricultural produce. This also has been removed. Initially, I was under the impression that this was removed because it was mentioned duplicately there, but the intention seems to have been to remove this also. Then slaughtering of animals. This also has been removed. We have seen that. So multiple exemptions have been removed. So definitely you can expect some question based on this one because you'll think it is exempt, but it has actually been removed. Cord blood banks also surprisingly has been removed. Though it is the healthcare services, the cord blood bank services also has been removed. That is entry number 73. That also, a lot of things have been removed. So all these are chargeable to tax. Most of the things have been cutting it in the PPT also, so that there is no problem. Then operators of common biomedical waste treatment facility. Okay, waste treatment facility operators. This also entry number 75 has been removed. So these are all the services exam will be removed. Parallel amendments have also been carried forward in our IGST law as well. Fine. Then further clarifications are there. Let us go through these clarifications. Applicability of GST on supply of food in Anganwadis and schools. Main whether under midday scheme, if such supplies are funded by government grants or corporate donations, still whether it is exempt or not is what the clarification was given. So the exemption, what does it say? If any services are provided by way of the midday scheme to the education institution, it is exempt. The scope is therefore wide enough to cover the serving of any food to the school. So what does Anganwadi does? It provides the preschool non-formal education. So therefore, in that particular situation, serving of food will be exempt, whether it is funded by the government or through the corporates. It doesn't matter. It is clarified that is going to be exempt. Then activity of construction of road, where the considerations are received in deferred payments or annuity payments. So wherever annuity ways the construction of road is there, out of which some you got upfront, others you are getting it deferred payment. So in this particular situation, the GST is this thing. So there is no exemption for GST on annuity. It is clearly clarified. So only exempts the access to road or bridge on payment of annuity. It doesn't cover the construction of road services. It covers only access to road on payment of annuity. Fine. So this clarification is also given. Then clarification regarding GST for various services and all. Taxability of various services like central and state board of examination, entrance examination, all of these things. In this case, the service is there, whether it is an education institution or what has been clarified. It is very clear. GST, it is totally crystal clear clarification is given. If any boards are providing the service, the central board or the state boards, by way of conduct of examination, etc., all that is exempt. On fees, etc., for that is also exempt. Input services, admission to conduct of examination, admit card printing, all exempt. GST is applicable to other services also provided by the boards. Some services are chargeable to tax where it provides accreditation. That is, this institution is qualified for doing this. There, for that, this particular board, like CBSE board is there. CBSE board provides a recognition to the institution that they are authorized and qualified to provide the CBSE curriculum education. For this, if the CBSE fee amount is charged, if that for that amount any amount is charged by the CBSE from the institution, that on that GST is applicable. Milling of wheat into flour or paddy into rice, we have seen this already, where the conversion happening for distribution in that particular situation. Here, whether the composite supply by way of milling of wheat into flour along with fortification by a person to state government, whether it is exemption or not. Here, entry 3A exempts composite supply, wherein the value of supply is not more than 25% of the goods should not be 25%. Public distribution is already given in entry number 28. So, therefore, 3A will apply to the composite supply of milling of wheat and fortification, provided the value of the goods in the composite supply does not exceed 25%. So, in this, the goods quantity should not be more than 25%, then it is exempt. Applicability of GST on service supplied by state government to their undertakings or PSUs by way of guaranteeing the loans taken by them. Whether the guarantee services, as we already discussed in our presentation, 34A entry gives the exemption to the services supplied by the central government, state government, union territory, etc., by way of guaranteeing the loans. So guaranteeing loans is crystal clear, it is exempt. So that for that is again gives the clarification whether it is applicable to state government as well as state central government. So the clarification is very clearly there that it is both the central and state government are cleared. Exemptions list are pretty much the same. Only few more exemptions are there in IGST. We will see now, but pretty much everything is the same. Then Clarification regarding coaching services supplied by coaching institutions under the central sector scheme of scholarship for students with disabilities. Now, some coaching institution and NGOs provides the free services under the central scheme where total expenditure is borne by the government for the coaching institution. That is exempt from GST. Overloading charges at toll plaza. Service by way of access to road or bridge on payment of toll charges is exempt, that we have seen in our discussion. But apart from that, there are some issues. Overloaded vehicles are also allowed to go on the highways in case of higher toll charges. Overloading charges also same treatment as toll charges, no need to charging the GST. Also, additional amount has to be taken for the users in case the vehicle does not have FASTag. What is FASTag? I'm sure every one of you know by now. It is the tag which is stuck on the vehicle for automated collection of tolls. So in case any vehicle does not have a FASTag, double toll shall be collected. So this additional charges also is payment of toll. So therefore that is also exempt. That clarification is given. Then renting of vehicles to state transport undertakings, as we see entry number 22. Hire is given to state transport undertaking motor vehicle carrying not more than 12 passengers. Hire here is renting of vehicles. Just clarification. There was a lot of confusion as to what exactly here. It is clearly hiring of vehicles. It doesn't matter where route it takes, which route it goes, all that doesn't matter. You hire the vehicles, for that you are charging the amount, that is exempt. Then applicability of GST on application fee, charge for entrance of fee for issuance of eligibility certificate or issuance of migration certificate by education institutions. If your entrance examination you are writing for the purpose of getting admission, or you are going from one education institution to other education institution, for that migration certificate is being asked. So what is the applicability of GST? Here, education services are exempt from GST. Services provided by education services to education institutions to students, faculty, and staff by way of conduct of entrance examination. So therefore, all services provided by the education institution are exempt from GST. Consideration charged by the education institutions by way of entrance fee also is exempt. So admission or entrance fee also is exempt. Migration certificate also is exempt. All those are considered as exempt services only. Transportation of empty containers returning from Nepal and Bhutan after delivery of transit cargo. In this particular situation, GST on transportation of empty containers. As we saw, entry 9B exempts GST on services associated with transit cargo. Exemption applies both to and from Nepal and Bhutan. So this also, empty containers also service associated with this transit cargo. Therefore, that is also exempt. Sanitization and conservancy services supplied to Army and central and government departments. Sanitation services are provided to the Army and governments, municipalities, etc. Functions are listed in Schedule 11. Services by this also is covered clearly under an exemption. Municipality, it is again services by the central government, etc. Is there is neither a supply of goods nor a supply of service. In this particular situation, if the same services are procured by Indian Army or any other ministry, which does not perform the functions under 11 and 12, that is your basic essential services function, same not eligible for exemption. So therefore, if Army is there, Army manages its own place like a cantonment board, official cantonment board. So they are utilizing the service of someone for the sanitation service, etc. On that, there is no question of exemption. Then applicability of GST on transport of minerals from mining pit head to railway siding, etc. by vehicles deployed with the driver for a specific duration of time. Here, whether the transport of minerals from a mining pit to railway siding by vehicles deployed by the driver, whether it is exempt, because entry 18 says a transport of goods by road except by GTA. In that particular situation, it is very clear that renting of trucks and freight vehicles with the driver for a period of time is not transportation of goods, but is a service of renting of transport vehicles. Clarification has been given. Here, vehicles deployed with driver for specific duration of time is renting of vehicles. It is not transport of goods service, therefore it is very much chargeable to tax. Then location charges or preferential location charges collected in addition to the lease premium for long-term lease, whether location charge, sometimes the long-term lease charges, if the location is good, they take some location charges also apart from the upfront amount. So if the location charges which is paid upfront also is eligible to the same tax treatment, therefore it is exempt. Then GST on payment of honorarium to the guest anchors. Guest anchors, etc., participate in the shows and gives clarified supply for all the goods unless exempt. Guest anchors in view of honorarium also GST is chargeable. There is no, suddenly I don't know why this doubt came, but many people had requested the government and gone to the advanced ruling, for which the government had to give a clarification. Services in the form of ART, assisted reproduction. If you are not able to conceive, you go to these particular centers, or in vitro fertilization. Healthcare services, anyways, it is exempt, but whether this is a healthcare services or not, very clear. Infertility disease is treated because of this IVF. That is why it is very much a healthcare service. So therefore, it is very much exempt, not chargeable to GST. Further clarification on sale of land after leveling, laying down of drainage lines, etc. Sale of land is neither a supply of good nor a supply of service. Either it is sold as it is, or is it sold after development, like basic development like drainage lines, electricity lines, etc. Even those are exempt. It is very, very clearly. This was a big confusion because a lot of companies are into plotting of land. They make the lands into different plots. They do the drainages, they do the electricity lines connection and all of that. Still, there was no clarity. There was an assumption that on this the GST is applicable. So whichever service is provided for the development of land, like leveling, laying of drainage lines, etc., shall attract GST at applicable rate. Hiring of vehicles by firms for transportation of employees to and from the work, whether the engagement of non-air conditioned contract carriages to and from work is exempt. It is very clear. In this particular situation, if you go for the exemption, in that case, it applies to the transportation charges where the transportation takes place in a predetermined route on a predetermined schedule. Here, if the vehicles are hired by the firm for the employees, it is just as if it is being hired by the respective organizer, where the respective company, where the vehicle will go depends on where the employees stay. So therefore, the exemption will not be applicable in this particular situation. GST on tickets of private ferry. Okay, like your inland waterways, private ferry tickets are their means of transport from one island to the other. In this case, it is exempt. So therefore, for this also, the exempt will be applicable. Fine. So with this, we come to the end of the supplementary paper also, and the various exemptions which are there in this particular thing we have covered. Now we come back to our slide and try to work out some problems before we conclude for the day. Just try to work out these problems. Individual acts as a referee in a football match organized by Sports Authority of India. He has also acted in a referee in another charity football match organized by the local sports club in lieu of a lump sum payment. Discuss whether he is required to pay any GST. Okay, so therefore exemption is given only if umpire, referee, player, if he directly provides the services to the recognized sports body. Therefore, first situation, he provides the service to the Sports Authority of India. So therefore, it is exempt. By another charitable charity match organized by local sports club. In this case, he is not providing in any way to the recognized sports body. There he is just providing to a private institution. So therefore, GST has to be charged in this form. RXL Private Limited manufactures beauty soap with the brand name Forever Young. RXL has organized a concert to promote. Mr. Anna Kapoor, brand ambassador of leading film actress, has given a classical dance performance. Proceeds worth rupees 1,20,000 will be donated to the charitable organization. Please try to answer this question. Anyone? So here, if you see, the exemption is given to the dance performance for classical dance of but there is a limit here. Even though there is a limit is lesser than the limit 1,20,000, the main condition is the exemption will not apply in case the performance is given in capacity of a brand ambassador. In case the brand ambassador capacity is there, therefore it shall be chargeable to tax. Legal services provided by BMC Partners, a partnership firm, to Vastukar Enterprises, providing architect services with preceding financial year aggregate 21 lakhs. So this is not exempt. It is very much chargeable to tax. But the important point here, what you have to consider is it is to be paid on reverse charge mechanism. Minimum balance charges collected by Dhanvarsha Bank from current account and savings account holders. All the charges apart from interest and discount, which are in the regular course, late non-maintenance of balance charges, credit card related penalty charges, SMS related charges, everything chargeable to GST. So these minimum balance charges also will be chargeable to GST. Let us look at each of these points. Fees charged for yoga camp. Determine taxable value of supply with the GST law with respect to each of the following independent services. Fees for yoga camp conducted by charitable trust registered under 12AA of the Income Tax Act 1961 is 50,000. Amount charged by business correspondent from banking company to services provided to rural branch 1 lakh. Cord blood blank 5 lakhs. Amount services by commentator to recognized sports body. So therefore this one is very much a charitable activity. Okay, very much a charitable activity, therefore exempt. Okay, this one is also exempt. This one was exempt but taxable, so therefore this one will be taxable. In your study material, the solution will say exempt, but that is not the correct one because the amendment has done. So I hope everyone follow this one. Then service provided by commentator. Again, here only umpires, referees, players are there. Commentator providing the service is not covered under exemption, so therefore it will be chargeable to tax. So this one also will be chargeable to tax. Under IGST, what are the services which are given here? Under IGST, as I told you, IGST has certain services which are exempt. Services which are received from provider of service located in non-taxable territory. The outside India, one service provider is there. From there, you are receiving the services. Central government, state government, union territory, or individual is receiving the services in relation to any purpose other than commerce, industry, or other business or profession. Or entity registered under 12AB is receiving the service for the purpose of providing the charitable activities. Or BA, by way of supply of online educational journals or periodicals to education institution other than institution providing by way of preschool education or education as a part of the approved vocational education course. So provider of service located in non-taxable territory is supplying the online education journals to these particular education institutions. That is also exempt. So service provider is there in non-taxable territory. Person also is receiver also is in non-taxable territory. That is also exempt because they are not connected to the statutory term. But there are few exemptions here. There are few restrictions here. Exemption does not apply to OIDR services. What is OIDR services? You will see in export of services chapter. In case of services received from India digitally, those are chargeable to tax. So that is not covered here. And also services by way of transportation of goods by vessel from a place outside India to customs station received by the person, that is also not covered. Tour operator is providing the service to foreign tourists in connection of tour totally outside India, not concerned in any way, exempt. Services received by the RBI from outside India in relation to management of foreign exchange reserves. Again, RBI is receiving service from outside the India. With regard to management of foreign exchange, it is exempt. Then establishment of a person in India is providing a service to establishment of that same person. That is same with like your distinct person. Okay, so I have an office in India. I only have the same office in India. I am providing a service to that particular person. It is my establishment only. That also is exempt. But again, main condition here is place of supply of service should be outside India. Some more problems here. Shiva Medical Center, a multi-specialty, is a registered supplier in Mumbai. It has senior doctors and consultants without entry into employer employment. These doctors and consultants provide consultancy to the inpatients. Patients are admitted for treatment without being there. Contact. In relation, they are paid consultancy charges. However, the money actually charged from inpatients is higher than the consultancy charges. Difference amount infrastructure, paramedical, etc. is there. Department said senior doctors are providing services and not to the Shiva Medical Center and not to the patients. Here, these are not healthcare services and must be subject to GST. Please come. We have already discussed this point in our presentation. It is very clear whether the doctors provide the service to the hospitals or whether the doctors provide the services to the inpatients. It is one and the same, because I am not taxing or exempting the service provider or the service receiver. My agenda is to exempt the type of service which is being provided. So when I say healthcare service is being provided, I am exempting the healthcare service. Who provides it? It's secondary. So therefore, the department stand in this case is correct. The services which are, this is how you have to write. You have to write that in case of healthcare services, the services provided by the doctors to the inpatients are also healthcare services and are not subject to GST. Therefore, the department contention taken by the department is incorrect. The services provided, even though the services are provided to Shiva Medical Center, since they are in the nature of healthcare services, they are exempt from GST. Next one. Vedanta Hospital, Gurgaon has its own restaurant, Annapurna Bhavan, in the basement, which supplies the foods to its inpatients. As per the advice of the doctor or nutritionist, Annapurna Bhavan also supplies food to other patients who are not admitted or their attendants or visitors. The food is prepared by the employees of the hospital and nothing is outsourced to any third-party vendors. Vedanta is of the view that all services provided by clinical establishment are exempt from GST, therefore not liable to pay any tax. You are required to test the correctness of the view. Now, what has happened? This also point we have discussed. It does not matter where the food is prepared. It can be prepared by the employees or it can be outsourced from the third-party vendors. These are all information to confuse you in the exam, because educational institutions have this condition that if the canteen is outsourced to the third party, is taxable, otherwise it is exempt. That is why they have tried to put that here. But this is different. It is very, very clear that in case the food is being supplied on the advice of the doctor or the nutrition to the inpatients, that is a part of the healthcare services. It is a composite supply wherein the principal supply is the healthcare service, and that is very much exempt from GST. But with regard to the food supplied to the visitors or the attendants of the patient, that is not connected to healthcare in any way. So that is chargeable to tax. So therefore, the view here of Vedanta Hospital is not correct in this particular situation. Only the food supplied to the patient, since it is of a healthcare service, it is exempt. The other food supplied to the attendants or the other visitors are very much chargeable to tax. I hope all of you are able to understand these problems. Any queries, please feel free to check with me. I'm not waiting for you to answer and all, because due to paucity of time. And since we have discussed all of this, that is the main reason. I'm just looking at problems. You have to be able to understand and correlate between what we have discussed. This is how the problems will be asked on exemptions chapter. IIM Indore organizes a placement drive for students studying in the campus. Many multinational companies register for the placement program and pay the registration fee of 1 lakh. IIM Indore is of the view that such consideration received from multinational companies for participating in the placement program exempt from GST. Explain whether the view taken is correct. Here, as I told you, whatever consideration in case of campus placements, it is very, very clearly clarified. Fees charged towards campus placements from the companies by the education institutions is taxable. We discussed this point very, very clearly. So therefore, the view of IIM Indore that the consideration is exempt from GST is incorrect. The fees which are charged from the for the campus placements is not in the nature of educational services. Therefore, it is chargeable to GST. India Corporations Limited, a PSU, has taken a loan from banking company, Wellness Bank. Loan was guaranteed by the central government, defaulted in the payment, where certificate is liable to GST. This also we have seen. Don't need to remember the entry number and all. Just say as per the notification number 23/12/2017. In case you are able to remember, fine. Or otherwise, just write as per the provisions of the CGST Act 2017. The services of the guaranteeing of loan by the central government on its PSU is clearly exempt from GST. Therefore, in this particular situation, the service of guaranteeing of loan is exempt. This question will definitely be asked in the examination. This one, similar question. Please bear in mind, I'm putting it in bold. A very, very important question because it relates to an amendment question. So, very important from exam point of view. Okay, because this amendment is there, but this is removed. So, this can definitely be asked. So therefore, this answer in the study material is different, so don't get confused. So here what happens, service of biomedical waste transfer is there to Visuddhi Pharma Company. Okay, Biomedical Waste Limited has charged a fixed amount. This is very much chargeable to tax. Earlier it was exempt, but now it is chargeable to tax. British High Commission Chief Diplomatic Mission is providing advisory services to students willing to travel for further studies. Seminar registration fee. It totally relates to education services outside the country. So therefore, this is very much chargeable to tax. Then, whether in case of independent services, GST is chargeable. Fees charged from office staff for in-house personality development course conducted by Mungerilal College for providing education as a part of curriculum for obtaining qualification recognized by law. What is this meaning? Office staff is providing the in-house personality development course. Okay, providing it. So though the college provides the education as a part of a recognized curriculum, in this particular situation, it is an in-house personality development course. Due to this, there is no qualification which you are going to receive. So very much chargeable to GST. Bus fees collected from students of Rosemary College, providing education as a part of curriculum for obtaining qualification under law. As I told, we discussed in the slides, the bus service are exempt only if it is provided to a school for preschool to higher secondary education. But here you are providing to the college. So though it is provided to the college, it is not exempt, chargeable to tax. Housekeeping services provided by Cleanwell to Himavarsha Montessori, a play school for cleaning its playground. So preschool and higher secondary are covered. So therefore, the input service to a preschool housekeeping is very much covered. Therefore, it is exempt. All these, please recollect the provisions. It is very simple. Infolink supplied tracing alphabets online educational journal to students of UKG class. Online educational journal is exempt only with regard to the approved vocational education course and curriculum for giving under qualification under law. It is not applicable to preschool. So therefore, in this case, number 4 is chargeable to tax. Sugam Charitable Trust provides the following service: compute the liability, resident renting of residential dwelling. So here what is happening? It is providing a service. Here in the first question, it is not mentioned whether it is providing to registered person or unregistered person. So you can make an assumption. If it is, or you can write very clearly, if it is provided to an unregistered person, then it is exempt. If it is provided to a registered person, then it is chargeable to tax, where the amount of GST has to be paid under the reverse charge mechanism. Renting of rooms for devotees, charges per day 750, less than 1,000 it is exempt. Renting of Kalyana Mandapam, charges per day 15,000. 10,000 or more is taxable, so this also will be taxable. Renting of community halls and open space, charges per day 7,500, less than 10,000 exempt. Renting of shops for business, charges per month 9,500. It's also less than 10,000 exempt. Renting of shops for business, charges per month 12,000. More than 10,000, it is chargeable to tax. Okay, I hope these are, you are getting clarity. So first one, it is exempt. Second one also, it is exempt, less than 1,000. These are the answers for this particular question. Fine. Now, this is a question which you have to look at. 1 second, but I think the question is not complete. So just refer to your study material. I'll tell you the question page number also. The page number will be, just one moment, 4.126. For 4.125. 4.125 is the question. This question is not totally come. Just go to that study material, the particular question. Chanakya Academy is registered under GST in state of UP. Following education institutions: Keshav Institute of Technology, KIT, a private engineering college in Ghaziabad. KIT also runs distance learning postgraduate engineering programs. Exams are collected in select cities: Little Millennium Preschool, Bright Minds, Spring Food. So here, if you see, number of services are there. Totally 8 services are mentioned there. I want you to please try this question as a revision or a homework or whatever you may call, and try to answer this question without looking at the solution. Okay, this question is there in your study material, problem number 12, 4.125. 4.125. So just try to attempt this problem, okay, for you to understand. So therefore, try to attempt this problem. In case you are able to do it, fine. We shall discuss the solution in my next class. Fine. So I hope all of you got the page number and the problem number. Fine. So with this, we come to the end of the chapter of exemptions. I hope all of you have got clarity with regard to this particular topic. Though don't get a bit panicky. You may feel that multiple things have to be remembered and all of that. Nothing to worry. If you see the problem, you will immediately recollect. But here, please go through the supplementary study paper in great detail. 100% you will get a problem, because multiple changes have happened in the exemptions in the amendments. So 100% we can expect a problem based on the changes which has happened. So with this, I come to the end of today's session. Once again, thank you everyone for attending the session on a Sunday evening or short notice. Hope all of you have benefited due to the extra class which was planned. Usually it is there in all these schedules, just became an extra class because for some reason it was got missed out. So therefore now, as per your next sessions, the place of supply and I think time of supply also, I'm not very sure. This will be taken by another eminent faculty, which shall be continued next week. And I will again come back to you in front of your screens on, let me just check as to when is my next class. It was somewhere around, I think, 25th or 26th. Let me just look at the schedule. So my class is on April 26th is my next session on input tax credit. April 26th, 28th have been allotted. 2 sessions are definitely not enough, but I think the schedule for 1 month is released. So May month will cover another 2 sessions. So input tax credit will have 4 sessions totally. So I will come back to your screens on April 26th. So thank you very much for attending the session. It is applicable in November 2024. Which one is I didn't understand your question, Vijaya. Applicable now, we are now in 23. So November 2024, yeah. See, the basics will remain the same. I am just assuming that you are writing your exam in November 2024. Although it is a bit premature to listen to the GST session. So in this particular thing, you try to focus on the conceptual clarity. GST being a ever-changing subject with a lot of amendments. We never know how many amendments will happen before November 2024. For November 2024, the amendments up to 30th April 2024 will be covered. So you have another 1 year. In 1 year, GST Council will meet another 4 times. So definitely some amendments can be expected. Sir, if question is written in own language with technical words, marks are allotted or not? Own language is a thing which is very subjective. You need to write it in a clear, comprehensive manner. When I say comprehensive, it need not be big. You should write in a language which is understandable by the examiner. Only then you will be able to, if he understands what you have written, then definitely you will get marks. Okay. Marks are not allotted in CA based on how much you are, how much if you write 1 page, 2 page, you get marks. It's not like that. It is whether you have understood the question. If you have understood the question, whether you are able to trace what exactly concept the question relate to, and accordingly what exactly you are giving as a solution. This is what matters. You need not, as I told in previous session also, you need not try to write the answer as it is given in the study material. The study material is elaborately given for you to understand the concept, so that you don't have to again refer to the provision as to find out how you have got this answer. So it need not be that elaborate, but refer to the provisions of the CGST Act. If you remember the section number, well and good, and write those particular provision and give an answer in a proper conclusion. If you do this, you will get the marks. It is not rocket science. Don't get very enamored by the CA course as if it is a very tough. It is definitely a tough course, but at the same time, if you are able to understand and show the answer as per the expectations that a professional will do, because once you pass, you will be in charge of multiple things, whether you go for a practice or whether go for a job. You will be able to you will be asked multiple questions. So it is more whether this candidate has the attributes to succeed as a CA is what the testing, rather than the technical knowledge. Technical knowledge is definitely important, but how you write it, it is important. Entry number 12 for residential does not say it is only available to registered. So can we say, in case a registered person is procured renting of place for residential purpose and not for commercial purpose, it will not be taxable? No, we cannot say that. It cannot say that, because entry number 12 has changed. If you see, what does entry number 12 say? Go to your supplementary study paper. Okay, entry number 12, go to your supplementary study paper. What does it say? Let me go there once. Services by way of renting of residential dwelling for use as a residence, except where the residential dwelling is rented to a registered person. That means, if the residential dwelling is rented to a registered person, then it is not exempt, it is chargeable to tax. As simple as that. Okay. So therefore, it is only available to registered. No, please read what is given in the supplementary study paper in this case, because there's an amendment which has happened. Please read that. If that you are able to do it, then you'll be able to. If you are able to you read what exactly is given in the supplementary study, then you'll get the clarity. Okay. Any further queries? I'll just wait for 2 minutes. If there are any further queries, we'll take it up. Otherwise, I will see you on the 26th. Though my video is off, I'm just waiting for a couple of minutes to see if you have any provisions. Otherwise, thank you very much, everyone, for attending the session. And please study well. And as usual, as I always say, please revise the concepts and please feel free to shoot queries as and when applicable. I'll just wait for a minute before I log off. Thank you very much. Good night. Yes, wait for 1 minute. If any queries are asking, I will take them. Wait for 1 minute. Then I will log off. You can close the session.